All right. And we are live. The last word. LordCognito, Ebontis, Ty Guy Travis, fresh on that Thursday evening Destiny campfire. Lots of stuff to talk about. E, the cheetah, how we doing, sir?
We're doing good. Trying to keep up with Xbox news and games coming out. We got a horror space remake that seems to be doing well in reviews.
What space?
Horror.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Horror.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
H-O.
I was about to
R-R.
I was about to
O-R.
go pre-order something. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what space you playing, bro.
Travis is doing a whole different spacewalk out there. Yeah. Getting really into it. No, honestly, just a fun week for video games. On one side, kind of coming away from last week and everything with all the world of technology companies saying, hey, we don't need thousands of you here anymore. And we do it most of the time for the bottom line. And that's always terrible to see a lot of that going around. But hopefully we're mostly done with that type of stuff. But yeah, we've been enjoying a lot of information in Destiny. This week, we got another kind of info dump, which we'll get to. I have some different thoughts about it this week. But other than that, lots to look forward to, and February is around the corner, and man, February is full of everything. So we'll get to that. Travis.
Yeah.
Can you not talk about anything you're doing?
No, I finally can. I finally can talk about the first thing this year. I'm working on a bunch of stuff I can't talk about, but as the year goes on, I can talk about more and more stuff I've been doing. And the thing I can talk about this week, can I talk about my review? No, I can't. It's under embargo for 2 more days. I can talk about Wanted Dead, which is a game made by some ex-Ninja Gaiden devs, which is
yes.
so they made they finished it basically. It's going to be out in a couple of weeks.
Hopefully. They're just gonna...
Yeah, I mean they sent me a preview, and the preview was the full game, and they were like, you could talk about anything in the first half of the game, and I was like, all right, this game's finished. These guys are hella confident.
Yeah.
So it is a very weird game. It's super old school. It's super janky. The voice acting is atrocious. It's like very, very like you play it and you're like, this feels like a PS2 game was made today. And I mean that with all the love in the world. It's basically, it reminds me of a time where like people cared more about it being sort of like they worried more about its like uniqueness and silliness than about its like level of polish,
Right.
like that kind of PS2 vibe, original Xbox vibe, and it very much plays like that. And so I had a lot of fun with it. The person who's reviewing it, Mitch Saltzman, he and I differ on our opinions on that game, but if you're an old school kind of difficult, you like difficult games and stuff like Ninja Gaiden, you probably will feel right at home. It's a very strange game. So you can find my preview of that on IGN.com. And other than that, I can't talk about really anything. But more will come out. I promise eventually I'll be able to tell you guys stuff.
No doubt. No doubt.
How about you, Cog? What have you been up to?
Yeah, man. I was trying to play Destiny for about 2 days, but that wasn't successful. But we'll get into that.
Yep.
Prior to that, what I was doing, I've been doing actually Crisis Core. Been trying to knock that out. I never played the original, what is it, PSP or whatever version of it. Yeah, so I'm trying to get the whole Zach storyline thing squared away, and then I got a lot of other games I want to get to, but there's a lot of Lightfall, a lot of info drops, a lot of economy changes, mad stuff going on, and we got this patient guest waiting. You know what I'm saying? We got to bring, gotta bring the homie in.
All right. Welcome to the Last Word, episode number 234. This week, PC Gamer got us all some answers. Lightfall Engram economy got quite an update, and Xbox took us for a drive that ended in Redfall. Lightfall is just about 1 month away, and we can see that Bungie is doing a sizable overhaul, and we haven't even seen Strand yet. Who better to discuss Nightfalls, especially in their Grandmaster form, than our guest this evening? It's been about 18 months since this Guardian sat down at the campfire, and I must say, that is too long. He must come back sooner. One of the nicest guys to chat with, holding your hand while you delete your god roll after the Gauntlet. While the end is bittersweet, the antics that happen during those streams are instant classics and always worth a watch. You may have seen this gentleman on YouTube with some of the best guides, farms, and strats to help players of all levels face the newest challenges in the world of Destiny. Between his hilarious streams, positive community, and kind, helpful nature, you're always in for a great evening hanging out with this guy. So let's welcome the man who has probably forced more content creators to delete their god rolls than anyone, a fan of all games from Mario to Call of Duty, and a man who is always climbing higher up the mountain to reach the next level of content creation. The one, the only, Above. How you doing, man?
Dang, dude, you can't gas me up like that.
We gotta do it. We gotta gas you up.
Watch us gas you.
I will try to live up to all of that. No, thank you guys for having me on. It was a blast last time talking with you guys, and I've been doing great. I seen LordCognito's going to the gym. I've been seeing the constant grind there, and I've made some health changes myself. And
man, let's go. Health is wealth. Let's go.
Exactly. And so I don't know, just looking forward to Lightfall. Like you guys said, there's just a crazy amount of news dropping, like almost like it's like abnormal. It seems like it's just been coming like crazy. So I'm really, really excited.
Nice.
Is that true, Cog?
What?
Health is wealth?
Yeah, health is wealth, man.
Oh, I've been wondering why I'm so poor all these years. I guess that makes sense.
You look great.
That was it.
Good, man. Thank you.
Wow, that was a really good lie, Above. Like I believe you for like half a second. That was solid, bro.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt out here, and you got the tie going on. I mean,
right? Believe me, he was usually
classics. I mean, dang.
Listen, man,
usually the best dressed, but hats off to Sephiroth because he's the only one who outdressed you.
Oh yes, yeah, Seth.
That was a classic moment.
That was a classic.
I shared the tie with you once, but he definitely one upped us both. So
yes,
you wore the tux, right?
Yeah, he went full tux.
With the wrong shirt. I called him out for it. He wasn't even wearing a tuxedo shirt. I brought one on set to show him what it really looks like. It was pretty embarrassing for him in the fashion community. Let me tell you.
Yeah, the guy in the tux is usually never embarrassed, so he's probably fine.
Very well.
But no, we have had a whole last week. If you wanna, I kind of want to get your take Above when we get to just last week. But even before we get to the story, we didn't actually cover that as a wrap up because we were dealing with some other stuff going on last week with so much information. We couldn't log in for a while on Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday morning. The game kind of broke, and I don't want to start on kind of a down note. But I just kind of wanted to go around the room to see where everybody feels, because there's always the idea around on the internet that, hey, you just need to slap a 3 on the box and make a new one or port it to a new engine or do all those easy armchair things that it is. I just kind of wanted to get your guys' take as my hunch. I've probably said this before, but I'll just throw it out there. My hunch is that this current platform that we're on is at least going to get us through the final shape. We're going to be carrying and dragging with chains and whatever dead weight they're going to be the Xbox One and the PS4 all the way to the finish line because, those things are actually going to get a little old by then. And also the game in and of itself, when, you release a game like Callisto Protocol and you have a number in the wrong place and it runs like absolute garbage, things happen. Apparently they, updated the wrong database the other day and we actually had to do our third rollback ever in the world of Destiny. So yeah. It's been an interesting time, but I would also say we've had season after season after season. Probably not always the smoothest, whether it's, an exotic that doesn't quite do its thing, or this thing there, or a quest that doesn't work. So I kind of wanted to get your guys' take, just state of the game. Where are we at going into Lightfall? You feeling confident the House of Cards is going to hold itself up? Do we need to put a few more pieces of duct tape places? Or are we sitting on a good foundation right now? Above, you get to go first.
Oh man, that was a tough question.
No pressure, by the way.
Honestly, in terms of patch notes and things that they're adding to the game, I feel more confident than I did going into Witch Queen, but in terms of game stability, I probably feel the least confident that I've felt in the game's franchise, which is kind of sad to say. But I mean, it seemed like, I don't know what it is, whether, obviously the more the game ages and the more code that you have to, just season after season and DLC after DLC, and they're changing graphics heading into Beyond Light and everything else. It just seems like one teeny little thing can throw off the game so much. And with Valve the Disciple, crafted red border weapons caused tons of issues, and then this time it was the seasonal exotic or from the mission And it's just like, you never know what could pop up next. And this time, like, it didn't even, they try and roll out an update for something that seemed like it was going to be pretty straightforward. And it takes the game offline. I think for the longest bout, like, we've really seen, to my knowledge, for an unplanned offline, for the game to be completely offline in a long time.
I feel like it's definitely because I feel like it was either Rivals or something. They took us down, kind of like a Fortnite, thing, going down and bringing it back up. But yeah, unplanned, it's definitely one of the longer ones for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got a good point, because going into all these systems, which I was like, hey, I wonder what they're going to do systems wise in Lightfall, just throwing the info to us constantly right now. It's been pretty interesting, but it's just it's the little things that they just continually are there, whether it's an exotic that's kind of broken, red borders aren't quite dropping. It's always seems to be a little bit of something. Yeah. So it's like, it is a weird dichotomy of excited about new content, just hope the content doesn't break something else kind of thing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm I'm very excited. I just hope it all stays together, for a seamless launch. And then I'll let everybody else jump in. The interesting thing is that major seasonal release days and expansions have actually been pretty clean for the most part. It's things that pop up throughout the season that seem like, that are causing the most issues, which is kind of interesting. Because, like, I don't know if you guys remember, Witch Queen had maybe 30 minutes of connecting to servers, and then it was you were good to go. But these last couple seasons have been kind of tough with stuff popping up. So
yeah, man.
Cog.
Yeah, it's eye opening. It's gone from smaller issues, and we used this ain't our first rodeo. We used to live service. We used to the start of a big expansion, expect the servers to be hammered, expect to be on a waiting list. Okay, that's normal run of the mill live service. But like when you're talking about, I've done IT, I've done server work. When you're talking about a rollback, like, the amount of time and resources needed to do that, to go back to a previous server state, that's a major mistake, right? So that's something that happened that was identified. They obviously, with the trial, we'll get into it. They identified it, but it seems to be a building up of all these small issues. And like Above said, like, it's even at the beginning of every new season, it seems to be like something is always disabled initially from the beginning that's not working as intended, that breaks another relationship. Again, I don't pretend to be a developer. I don't pretend to know what happened, when they keep adding on. They've made a lot of changes, right? When the Destiny Vault came, they put stuff away, they brought stuff back, they reintroduced it, what I mean? And then you have the fact that, like you said, we still have to recognize the fact that this is still a cross-generational game, right? That's still on a base level. There's still a lowest common denominator that they always have to account for. When you have that, it's going to be a problem. So, we've been on that whole new engine Destiny 3 train.
And that's kind of the thing. It's like, you can say that, but to try and port, like, it's like trying to take a moving car and then put it on a new platform on the same road that you're driving down. It's like, it's no easy task for them to try and do all of that kind of conversion and changes and literally like twice the work in the background. So it's like, I'm not trying to say it's like, oh yeah, just, Unreal 5 export and you're good to go. Yeah, it's like totally fine. It's like, it is the exact opposite of that. I get that. But again, also we're at the point of, like they started working on Destiny 1, 12 years ago now? Would that be right? Maybe like 4 years before, or years before, somewhere in there. A decade. And again, like the engine we know, and as Above mentioned, in Beyond Light got lighting updates and things like that. And I'm sure with every expansion, they're doing more things in the background. They're constantly doing things now where it's like, hey, they can, kind of do things server side that they wouldn't be able to do before, and turn dials and stuff that they didn't have previous access to, which is good. But also it is like I don't envy like the tech department to do what they do to make this thing still function, because they're the only live service still kicking.
Yeah.
Another one bit the dust recently, kind of, so to speak. Avengers kind of went down, but
it's one of those things too that, like, I mean, as much as the community's frustrated, Bungie is in the same boat. Like,
of course,
it's costing them. I mean, that had to be an expensive issue that popped up the other day. They're not only missing out on hours of live service game, but like, I mean, to roll back a server, like you said, has to be just like a major undertaking of resources. And they were up all night, which like shout out to the team. They got
yeah.
We don't know what goes into that, but they were up all night fixing.
Let me tell you, I've been in that. I know what's going on in that room. Like I've done that before for corporate, and that is a last resort because you literally want to see if you can do a hot fix or something while it's live. So to have your last alternative, and you got to hope that you've got tested working backups that will get it back to that state that are functional. So you got that aspect. What I wanted to say also too is that when you have the lowest common denominator of the old platforms, right? And I guess my question is, what is the install base? Because generally there's a financial decision tied to that.
Probably big.
Right? And if the install base on base Xbox One and base PS4, is it still that high? You know what I mean? That they're not willing to make that break. Because I'm like, okay, you're not going to give us Destiny 3.
Well, it's like,
but at least you could say, okay, from Lightfall on, it's a Series X, you know, and this minimum spec PC thing kind of thing, and then be able to cut off, and that wouldn't hurt them. I'm very curious about that. Is if it's financially tied to why they're still holding on if they're not going to give us Destiny.
I was like, well, I mean, what are the estimated numbers? Like PS4 was what, 110, 120 million. Xbox was 60, 70% of that. I mean, 160, 170, 180 million consoles out there. That's the majority right now. It's like, you know, PS5, I think, hit 30 million. Series X is, what is it? Like 20? I don't know. It's, you know, they're not they're closer this time around, but it's like you go 180 to like maybe 50. Yeah. The vast majority of an established player base, especially for a game like this, because we're not bringing in new players that often, because we talked about the new player experience, because that's a whole different thing. A lot of them are already entrenched in whatever they're on. And I have a guess, because I think they honestly would have loved to potentially made Lightfall maybe a Switch, maybe like playing that far in advance. But pandemic, lack of consoles, like chip shortages and all those things, probably just, and then you get to the point where, like, now granted, they did it with Rise of Iron. They went from like, you know, last gen, whatever, they got rid of like PS3 for Rise of Iron. But if you're going to go for like the whole Destiny 2 saga and you're going to say the final year, like for final shape, yeah, you got to have a PS5 for that one though, to experience the like, I don't know if they're going to do that. And we're getting close enough to the end of this saga that I feel like we're just going to have to power through, which I'm not a fan, but I think we're going to have to. Travis, where are you at on all this?
Yeah, Trav, what you think, Trav?
Well, I think we all know what's really to blame for all of Bungie's woes. Paul Tassi.
Tassi, yeah, man. He speaks it into existence.
He did it all. He wrote one too many Forbes article, and the Bungie servers just couldn't handle it.
That's it.
I'm calling you out, Paul Tassi. I'm holding you personally accountable for what happened this week in Destiny. And if
at least we got the problem solved. Yeah.
If you'd like to defend yourself, you're welcome to come on this show, The Last Word, and debate.
Rematch.
Right?
Travis and Paul rematch round 2. That's still one of our most watched episodes, by the way. The last time he was on, I forget what it was for too.
I think it was the
Trials.
It
was Trials. Mm-hmm. Does try how the ship of Theseus, you know, how much can you take away from Trials before it's no longer Trials?
I remember this. Yes.
Anyway, no, actually, I'm gonna do something I almost never do, and I'm gonna be on the side of I think Bungie's fine on this one.
I thought I was gonna get some Sony ownership.
I know. I thought
this is where this was going.
I hate to disappoint the fans. Actually, legitimately, it is Paul Tassi's fault. But you know, putting that aside for the moment, the fact that it's his fault. I think people are too quick to jump the gun and say that it's the engine. I don't think there's a lot of evidence to support that, frankly. I think that the engine has held them back in terms of the scope of what they can do, and probably the consoles have held them back. And I think there's evidence to suggest that they had to get rid of all of the content after Beyond Light because of the changes they made to lighting, where it was easier to just throw away all that old content than update the lighting for old areas. You know, there's like very clear like examples where their engine was getting in their way. I don't think this is one of them. I think it's probably an example of I believe they're in between QA leads right now. I don't know.
I did see that on Twitter.
Yeah. And it was messy on Twitter too.
I
not great.
Let us not forget that Destiny is still a peer-to-peer game. It does not have dedicated servers. That could easily be a problem too. It has nothing to do with the engine. There are lots of. It sounds like it was just an honest slip up from somebody. Like they just something happened.
This one specifically does feel like,
specifically,
yeah. They literally said accidentally.
I'm all for the discussion of how much are the old consoles holding back what you can actually do. I'm all for them talking about engine changes. And by the way, engines, they evolve over time. It's not like you make an engine and then you have to stick with the tools forever. The Blam engine ran Halo Combat Evolved all the way to Halo 5 Guardians, right? Like they didn't update that until 2017 or whatever the heck they started working on Halo Infinite's engine. So I think that you can still use an engine and find its tools reliable and be helpful. I think Destiny has a lot of problems with the fact that they're a live service game and they're the ones that's been around the longest with the kind of most in-depth content that's hard to manage and replicate and make in volume. But I'm not going to pin the blame on the engine in this one. I'm not a game developer as well, so I just want to shout that out to I get that making games is hard. Your game being down for 2 days after 8 years, I'm going to give you a pass. Honestly, I'm going to give you a pass this time. Not their biggest.
Travis, what's this?
I'm always reasonable. This is the problem. I'm so reasonable that nobody agrees with me because the world is filled with extremists these days. But I'm going to just. Sorry, bro. It's true. All right. I'm just a moderate in a world of fascists. That's all I am. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna give them a pass on this one and say, they can figure this thing out. I'm not gonna begrudge them for the game being down for 2 days. That said, I'm glad I didn't do the raid or the dungeon or anything in between that time because that would have been a real kick in the groin. Boy, do I feel
you want to know
rewarded.
how close I was? I finished because I cleared Insight Terminus solo GM like Wednesday earlier in the week. I tried for one more clear most of the rest of the week solo, and I was struggling. I can put together a death montage that's got to be fantastic to watch, but I finished it at the servers were 10:20, I think my time when they were the rollback was valid. I beat that window by 30 minutes for it to count. I finished it 30 minutes before their rollback period, and I was just going. I saw the time. I heard about a rollback, and I was like, "Oh no!" But
yeah, I will just say I've been just repeatedly vindicated in my decision to not play near reset, whether it's auto completing quest steps or this sort of thing. It really pays to be a procrastinator in the Destiny world. So
I'll be like,
you're not wrong. That's kind of a
hats
thing.
Hats off to you, content creators. I do not envy you.
We put in the hard work, so you
making life good for me right now.
Yeah,
dude, I was happy that I got to record because how they have the node for GMs now. I recorded the Scarlet Keep guide the night before, and I was like, oh man, do you know how behind I would be on recording everything? It'd be a whole day later with this debacle that happened. But I hear where you're coming from, Travis, and I agree. Honestly, I do. Games are going to go down. I think that's, if anybody's shocked by that in 2023 of a game having issues for 12 or 24 hours where something gets screwed up, you're just going to have to deal with it. It happens. What I'm more concerned about personally is it's the piling up of issues that seem to be happening more frequently. Now, whether that's the engine or it's the peer-to-peer just getting worse, or it's the code that's been around for God knows how long, and they're trying, they adjust one weapon or introduce some new functionality on a new exotic that goes back and it screws up, a Nessus Lost Sector and makes all the lights turn. Just example one, it could be anything in this game could get screwed up from just one little change. But it's recently, I'm sure you guys played Iron Banner. Dude, we made a video on a montage of people teleporting behind through walls.
That was actually my luckiest Iron Banner.
The musical choice.
Yeah,
I think that's that's just example A, and then you have ads teleporting and Nightfalls. It's just I don't know. I think something's wrong. They have to realize that because it's become a pretty popular community sentiment, more than I've ever seen previously, for people to really care that much about the more technical side of the game. Like you've never really seen that from the community before, but it's becoming like a pretty forefront issue. And I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't at least like bring it up, because it's definitely something that's plaguing the game at the moment. Now, how would they fix that, and whether it's the servers, I don't know.
So I was specifically addressing kind of the outage this week, but if you want to talk like how many bugs we've seen in shipped stuff, I think there's a lot you could point at. There's this whole velocity versus quality argument that we heard from a key Bungie developer. There's the fact that they're working from home largely now, which, just in my experience, I also work on a technical product from home for, my day job. And let me tell you, quality is way harder to assure when your team is not physically in the same space.
Very true.
So I think there's a lot of different challenges that possibly could be that. And they don't get a pass on that stuff, honestly, especially, I'm reviewing Lightfall for the largest gaming outlet in the world. I'm not going to give them a pass if they ship it with bugs. That's just part of the deal. So to a certain point, this really does matter and they have to tackle it. But I was just specifically mentioning like this outage. Granted, I didn't lose any progress. So I'm like very much not aggrieved by this, but, and I understand if people are upset because they play it at reset, and that does suck. But for me, I think that people pointing at the engine for the outage isn't really fair. And I think you can grow an engine without ripping and replacing it. Most companies choose to do that than to build an entire new engine, because that takes a huge investment and lots of extra employees working on it.
Absolutely.
Yada. But they do have a bigger QA problem that I'm sort of raising my eyebrow at increasingly. Like Dwayne The Rock Johnson himself.
Absolutely. And the last thing I said before I get to you was completely agree. And the fact that I think for me now, I personally am starting to see the age in the engine when it comes to the cutscenes, right? And I'm starting to see like, okay, it doesn't look horrible, but if you're comparing it to what's currently out, right now,
out of War, Dead Space, even Callisto, looks gorgeous. Right. Like
the first time, like the first couple times, I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to see it now, and that's why hopefully a couple of years go down, the install base of the current gen consoles goes up. And I hope there is a cutoff, because the part of me does want, at the end of the day, if you have that lowest common denominator, that does inhibit game design. Game design is affected when you still have to account for something. So you can't put your greatest ideas and your greatest technical things on this evolving engine. So that's what I was just hoping for. Is that I know the financial part, but I hope maybe, final shape or something, we get to that
final shape. Post final shape is when I would say, because they say Destiny 2 is going to continue
financial
on.
Part, Cog. What happened to the Sony bucks? You told me we were going to go.
Sony bucks are there, but
you told me we were going to live in a golden age of Bungie, where they were going to have unlimited funds because the money went straight to Bungie and not to its investors. Remember, that's what you told me. That's all I'm saying.
Unlimited funds.
You told me unlimited funds. You told me it was going to be a golden age, dedicated servers for everyone. That's what I heard. All right.
I just
want to. You and Paul Tassi. We need to just get you in a line, firing squad style. Something needs to happen. It's a problem here. I also want to say one other thing.
I tried. I'm sorry.
You tried. Sorry.
One other thing that could be at fault here.
Yes.
Which is crossplay. I hate to say it, but every game that has added or included crossplay has had serious problems, both with servers and with rolling out stuff that has to agree on multiple platforms and communicate with each other. And you can actually see real world examples where the games were not built for crossplay, and then when they added them later, things started to break and they had to kind of like
from a foundation.
Yeah. I honestly think adding crossplay, that was sort of the beginning of when, at least to me, I started to see like real bugs in Destiny, for when I think it was Shadowkeep I think it was Shadowkeep the year that they added it, or somewhere around then. And we've sort of seen that. So I do want to say like that could be a factor in there.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, that's a factor.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to say to Cognito's point was like, there's definitely that least common denominator of old gen consoles, but that's also the case, I would say, for every game in the industry, especially those now that are pushing much higher graphical prowess than Destiny is. Like, to your point, like cutscenes in Destiny, I still think they look good personally. I'm not a huge lore cutscene guy, but I watch them and I'm like, yeah, this looks good. But then you go and see like God of War from this year. I mean, games like that, it's mind blowing. And I don't think, that many people would expect it to run like games like that running flawlessly on old gen consoles. So eventually, just like from an overall industry standpoint, that has to step up, and that has to be soon. So I don't think all the pressure is necessarily on Bungie to do that, because I think it'll happen naturally. But I mean, everybody's got to be feeling that pressure, and I mean, eventually that's just the reality. As much as it sucks to dish out $300 or $500 for a new console, like, we all bite the bullet as gamers and have an upgrade. So
I mean, we're starting to see both Sony and Xbox starting to push finally, and it's probably going to be around this year. It's like, I know Spider-Man's PS5 only, Starfield Series X only. Like, is it going to be like that? The big ones, the tent poles this year, I think, are going to start being next gen only.
Yeah.
Especially, and for a lot of the ones that can choose something like Diablo 4, maybe if it's going to console, I don't know. I think that's PC first, but like, there's
why
still
that's happening too. Why people are abandoning the old console?
Why they banned it? Wow.
It's because no one wants to be Cyberpunk 2077.
That's fair. That was a painful lesson for.
Nobody wants to be the company where your game runs fine for 5% of the population, but terrible for 95% of the population.
Absolutely.
And
that was a lesson. That was an industry lesson.
I would rather not release your product than to release it on a console.
Hogwarts, for example, is like 2 months later, 2 or 3 months later, I think, for last gen, if I remember right. Something. So it's like, maybe they just need some extra time, and that's okay. Like, if you're just at least be upfront about it. But again, live service game, everybody's on the same exact content, can't really do it. So at some point, my still hunch, hopefully post Final Shape, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, as the story has wrapped, we actually didn't talk about this last week, so I kind of wanted to get a quick take from everybody. Season of the Seraph kind of got to a wrapping point. We did have the little pop-up saying there will be an activity in the last 2 weeks quest thing. So some kind of epilogue, lead into Lightfall, whatever you want to call it. Just what were your take on the seasonal story? Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun? Do you like where it ended? Feel like it was like kind of a complete, missing something? Where you at? Kyle, you're kind of shaking your head. Where you at first?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was solid. I like the callbacks for the D1 as far as Rasputin, the whole, getting the understanding of what happened and the manipulation involved. Obviously, I thought Anna Bray was really good this season. I love that interaction there. Reading the latest, newest grimoire thing, whatever you unlock, Lord thing, it don't seem like it's going to end well for the homie, the Rasputin. I'm just putting it out there. I'm seeing things like it's seeming like a fair weather. I think Travis might get his wish, because what I'm seeing seems like either there's nothing he can do, Rasputin, to stop this whole Ziva Rat situation. They seem boxed in. It does, like, no matter what they do, it's to the enemy's advantage. That's what it seems. So I'm very curious, but I do like the reason I like this season, the humanizing. Basically, it showed that it proved that Anna Bray's humanizing of him did pay off for some aspects, right? And now we get to see, okay, what is going to happen with these war swords? What's going to happen leading into it? And then the discovery, obviously, it was at Neo Muna. That's cool, the tie in there. So look, we'll see what happens. My prediction, some type of catastrophic event to Big Red. We'll see if I'm right with that. And
you think Rasputin's going down, huh?
Yeah, I think something. It don't sound good. These latest lore things that I'm reading sounds very farewell-ish to Anna Bray.
I guess my question is, what makes you think that? Is it the fact that he doesn't know what to do with himself? Because I know it kind of got left where he's trying to figure out how to face Ziva Wrath. If he does what he wants to do and take out the entire hive, he just powers the horn. But if he does nothing, so it's like, I know he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, but why do you think it's like...
I'm going to tell you why.
Why? Okay.
It's a controversial take. Travis might like this. I think his humanization, as great as it is going to be a flaw in this situation. I don't know. I just feel like as great as it is that he's a person and he has feelings and he's reassessing past decisions, and you're a war mind, bro. Like, you're supposed to make the hard choice. So if you make the hard choices, sometimes it means, we got to wipe out X, Y, and Z, or this entire race, or this planet, for the overall equation to be the existence of the human race, then you got to do it. So now I'm worrying if this conflict, this human element, is going to affect the decision making. And now he's like showing feelings and to Anna Bray at the end of the mission. So we'll see what happens. That's my prediction. I hope I'm wrong. You know what I mean? But I think he's ultimately going to help. But I feel like a tragic end is coming from him. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm curious what y'all thought. But overall, your question, I thought the season was good. Way better than Season of the Plunder. Way better. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And I told you about the loop and stuff, but story-wise, I did like it.
Yep. Above?
I'm with LordCognito 100%. I think this is the strongest season of Witch Queen, and it's not even close. Not just from story, but like you said, like the seasonal gameplay loop, I think has been really good. It also is helped out by the fact that it's only 2.5 months. So it's kind of like really sped along, and now we get one rotation of GMs, and it's Lightfall. So
yeah,
it's kind of scooting by pretty fast. For me, so I've always been a huge fan of Rasputin and like that whole storyline. Like I loved that whole DLC.
Travis continue just to live on his solo island.
I think it's a great storyline. It's very interesting. And honestly, like despite how much I love Rasputin and the whole Warmind lore and all that, my favorite part of the story unfolding was actually like, you kind of see how smart Xivu Arath is over anything else, and
not just a brute.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It wasn't just like the brute sister. It wasn't just the one that was kind of like in the background this whole time. Of you've heard so much about Savathun, you've heard so much about Oryx, but Xivu Arath's kind of been in the background. Turns out, crazy master plan that puts even Rasputin in like a really difficult position. And it's heading into a huge DLC. So I kind of like that they're leading up to it with that.
Nice. Travis, I know something's rolling around in that brain of yours. Controversial take coming.
Obviously, the only way to kill Xivu Arath is for everybody to get in a drum circle and sing Kumbaya and refuse to fight. So it's obviously going to be an anti-war protest at the end.
They go pick it.
We kill Xivu Arath with our love.
Right? Yeah. The Traveler just turns into a big heart.
That's right. I can't. So, Season of the Seraph. I mean, it's all right. That's how I would put it. It's okay. I'm a little exhausted by the model, the grind, the hey, let's do this.
I think we all are. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly. Let's upgrade this thing, this screen. Let's fill out all of our squares, sort of thing. But I would sort of put it on the same level as the season right before Witch Queen, where there was a much better story. Lost. Yeah, I still wasn't enamored with the activity that we were all doing.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was the story is strong. I like that it was short and sweet. I like that I didn't have to do a ton of grinding and do the seasonal activity like 15 times per week or whatever they had me do in the past. That was nice.
Yeah.
The dungeon is strong. Love that. And they changed comp. Would have been nice if they added rewards to each bracket, but look, we're getting there, baby steps. So all in all, not bad. I also like what they're doing with the weekly activity where it's sort of got a Metroidvania. You're opening extra doors and doing extra stuff every week. That sort of is cool. So I'm not going to complain. That's not true. I'm not going to complain.
Travis must have slept well,
let's be honest.
Here we go. Let's get it.
I'm going to complain a little bit, which is that my caveat.
Travis. There we go.
My caveat always is that it's good for Destiny. That's the asterisk, right? For Destiny. The story is good for Destiny. The seasonal content is good for Destiny. Is it game-changing, mind-blowing stuff? No. Do I expect that from Lightfall? Absolutely. It's a game. Expect more from your games. I'm a big believer in that. And so we'll see what they have. But in terms of a season to keep people engaged and keep people playing and build hype for Lightfall, I think they did a fine job. I think they were a little cowardly with some of they should I would have liked them to make more decisions this season rather than sort of just waffling a little bit around.
Well, we might have to revisit post epilogue. That final show of the season is going to be interesting once we kind of know what happens.
Exactly. I'm 100% in agreement with that. The season's not over. Stuff could happen, but we didn't move the needle as much as I'd like. I'm a big fan of just doing stuff, like just do stuff in your season. Stop like edging us toward Lightfall and toward the final shape, because I feel like I've been doing that for 8 years and I'm kind of sick of it. I just want stuff to start happening.
He wants his release. He wants it.
Yeah. I'm Judge Judy going, come on, like wrap this up. Let's go. So
well, okay, let me ask, go around the room. We got Risen, Haunted, Plunder, Seraph. Rank them, and you get 30 seconds.
Oh God! Can I get a reminder of what these were? You just
Risen. Risen is Brackus Forge, Iron Banner, the Scions, and then Crow basically pulled the plug. We had that.
Right.
That was the season
with Witch Queen.
That was the one where you go into the mental
Psyops Battlegrounds.
Yep. Okay.
Then we had Season of the Haunted. That was the revisit of the Derelict Leviathan and the Patrol Zone, Nightmare Containment, but we also had the Sever missions with the emotional roller coaster every week. Then we had Haunted. You guys know that one pretty fresh. You got Catch Crash, you got Expeditions, you got the Aramis Mithrax story, and Ido.
Plunder, you mean?
Plunder, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. And then Seraph, now you guys are fresh on that one. So I want 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you know Cog, go.
Yeah. All right. Seraph is by far the best season for me in the Destiny seasonal model. The one I think you said Risen is the one
with
where Brackus Forge and Psyops Battlegrounds. Plunder's last, and then Hunted is before the last. Because even though it was nostalgic to go back to the Leviathan, it was really weak content. Like, it wasn't really a lot of content. And it's like, I'm battling my demons, and then next week I've conquered my demon.
How times have changed. People changing the tunes on the show. I remember people singing the praises, talking about how good of a story it was, learning about all of these traumas.
But it wasn't better than this. You got me ranking, right? If we ranking, we going head to head. So head to head, that's cute. But that ain't that Seraph. I like Seraph, so I feel you. It's what you said with the whole for Destiny. As far as Haunted, that's what that is. But that's just my record right now. Where y'all at?
Above.
I would say for me, Seraph, and it's not close. I think Seraph is like head and shoulders better than the other seasons this season.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
So I would say Seraph, Risen, Plunder, then Haunted last.
Ooh, you got Plunder. Let me hear it. Why you like
Plunder? Here's the thing with me in seasonal activities. If you have me go to a destination and the activity has no sort of mechanic or any way of kind of diversifying the gameplay whatsoever, it's literally you sit in the Castellum for 20 minutes. The activity takes forever to do.
Yes, you're right.
There's no mechanic. You literally have a Scion, you break out of a bubble, and you shoot a boss. If you compare that to Seraph, you have 3 different strike level activities that you can do. They're all unique. The boss rooms are very cool. There's multiple difficulty levels of each one. If they were to take those battlegrounds and replace the current battlegrounds that are in the Strike playlist, I would be all for that, genuinely, because I think those are much more Strike-esque activities than the current battlegrounds that are in there at the moment.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and so for Plunder, it comes down to, for me personally, like, at least there were, there were some mechanics in the boss room, and there was, it's like it had like a more like a better theme to it for me personally. The thing I didn't enjoy about that season was the fact that you had to spend so much time doing such a bland, like, go up and dig the treasure and then go back to do the activity. I love with Seraph, I can just run the activity to get the loot that I want. I thought the inclusion of the Seraph Warminds, the nodes was cool and like a cool nostalgic thing that they did to unlock the Akelos weapons and things like that. So I thought, Risen was good. It wasn't anything groundbreaking like you said, but I mean, Saps was cool. And then, yeah, for me, Haunted just fell short. I don't like what they did with the story. Like you said, the story's kind of interesting, but it's like, oh, we have demons and we're conquering the demons. But for me, the weakest part of it was how long you're sitting there watching dialogue. I want to play through the story that I'm experiencing. And that season, more than any, I felt like I was just sitting there watching. Like, I don't want to wait 10 minutes to dive into the action. Let me go fight this boss. You know what I mean? So
exposition.
Yeah, Haunted for me was by far the weakest. And I would say overall, I think Seraph is a really good quality season. But if you're comparing year to year, Witch Queen to Beyond Light seasons blow Witch Queen out of the water.
Oh, this spicy. Let me break it down. Give me one.
Give us a run through. So we had Chosen.
You had Splicer. You had Chosen. And you had Lost.
All right, but hold on. I got to come for you.
Really solid season.
So are you saying, because I feel where you're going with Splicer, but are you implying that I'm with you with the Splicer one where you would go into, what was the name of it?
Vex Network and Korea.
Which one? But the one you like that one before, where it was kind of like before you go into the deep dive.
Public event on the planet.
You like the public event? You like that one? I'm just curious.
I enjoyed Splicer for the activity, I guess, and the aesthetic. The weapons were also very good. Yes. To me, I think actually my favorite season from then was it was Chosen, because you're adding new strike to the pool of strikes, which I think is very, very weak at the moment. We've lost more strikes than we've gained in the last 2 years.
The Battlegrounds season.
Yeah, we got Proving Grounds. Yeah.
We had Battlegrounds. We got Proving Grounds, which was like a community event. It was like a brand new strike. And then
density was crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. It was I just felt like last year overall the seasons were stronger compared to this year. It feels kind of weak, like they're just kind of buying time to Lightfall almost. But
interesting take.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Travis.
We gotta get Travis.
Sorry. One more point.
Yes,
I think that the thing that I want to call out too is like you'll notice the seasons leading up to a major expansion are so much stronger.
Oh man, yeah.
Than the ones earlier in the year. And that's obviously to sell copies of the new expansion. But man, I just wish, to me, honestly, I would love to see there be no seasonal content with the release of a major DLC. I think the legendary campaign and the activity that comes on that planet is more than enough to sustain players, at least for like a month. You would at least hope that from a major expansion, and then spend the rest of the time padding core playlists. I think that's been the biggest miss for me. Like no Gambit maps, no Crucible maps, no strikes.
What's Gambit?
What's maps?
I mean, seriously,
what are new maps?
We're just missing out on such key essential pieces of a live service MMO. Like your core playlists are what made this game, and they just seem so blatantly ignored.
Are you quoting my Witch Queen review at me live on this show?
That's what you say.
Yeah, it was like my entire review. It was like, what happened to 70% of this game?
Seriously. It's shocking. I mean, I don't know.
It's a little hard to separate some of the content from its season, right? Like this season, I feel like it gets a little extra points for the dungeon, which isn't a part of the season itself, right? It's a separate content you have to buy separately. Risen probably gets a whole bunch of extra points for being part of the Witch Queen and
King's
the fact
Fall
that we just had
last season. I guess.
Well, King's Fall, I don't know if that's a selling point exactly.
Slander.
I mean, it's an old raid you can just play in another game right now, so I don't know. It's fine. I feel like I'm being asked to rate a bunch of 5s against each other. Frankly,
I mean, you can just say it's a tie and we'll move on. That's
fine. Yeah, I mean, but I feel like if I do that, that's a bit of a It's a bit of a cop out.
There's a bit of a cop out. Yeah.
So you guys are asking me for my 5.1s and my 5.3s, and I take offense to that because I think the 10-point scale is superior in every way. But I will do it. But I will do it.
I was gonna let him move on, and we were gonna have this whole damn argument. But go ahead, Travis. I tried.
A very important part of discourse is not accepting flawed questions. Never answer a false premise. That's my problem with a lot of this. But I'm going to do it anyway because I love you guys.
Love you too.
Thank you, Aristotle, with your.
I will give Seraph #1 position with a 5.4. I will give Risen a 5.3, and I will give both Haunted and
don't do that. Come on, make the tough choice.
Plunder a 5.0. But if you if Sophie's choice, one of these has to get shot in the head,
let's go.
I would shoot Plunder in the head. I would do it. If I had to do it. I personally would do it. It's not even a requirement. They're like, we didn't ask you to do that. And I'm like, no, I'd like to do it myself, please. So yeah, I just all of these to me are very mid content. So sorry, not sorry, but it sucks to rank them against each other, but we're good. There's my order.
All right, for me, Seraph easy #1 without a question. One of my favorites in a while. The only activity that I would say rivals some of the stuff we've been doing was what you mentioned with Season of the Lost with the Metroidvania and the 3 branches. Still one of my favorite activities for the Shattered Realm or whatever it was called.
Yes.
But Seraph with like just the activity alone this season, fantastic.
Chef's kiss.
Story, really enjoyed seeing multiple characters play, the banter between Mara, a little bit of Aramis in there. We've got Osiris, like the different, honestly, some of my favorite pieces. Like, I think this season's voicemails are some of my favorites.
Yes.
It's like, you got the one between Ido and Drifter. It's like, yeah, there's a chuckle, but like real, like deep discussions, I think happened in the voicemails this time around. So that, I can go on and on. That's a #1. My lowest.
Yeah, let me get in.
My lowest is going to be Plunder. Now, the main reason it is my lowest is because I think it was the breaking point for a lot of people in the community, and I don't think I'm alone, between the triumphs and all the champions you had to kill and the ruffians that just grated on your friggin' nerves and all of those. And then it was like, and you were teased by it's like, hey, catch crashes over here. And it's like kind of fun and cool to do. And you got 3 branches, but you got to go run expedition 600 more times. And it's like, no,
do that.
No, I want to go over there, but I want to go do that one. That's all one's fun. So yeah, so it was the culmination of burnout for a lot of people, and then like just the ruffian challenges, and then you get to like, hey, here's your what is it, seasonal challenge on the season pass, week 10, kill 10 more ruffians, and I'm just like, do you have any idea how many people you just pissed off who are done with the 200 whatever champions weeks ago? So Plunder for me, even with something like Volt Shot, which is like my favorite perk in the game right now. But I was like, Ikelos has it too, but like Brigand's Law, it's like level 97 for me. I did not put that gun down after I crafted it, and I love that. Even with that, still worse. So then above that is Haunted, because Haunted did have decent loot with Incandescent. Fun. I got my Mida multi-tool. We had Duality with the dungeon, so it kind of
Solar 3.0.
Solar 3.0 came
in. Duality was on Haunted. That's right.
Duality was Haunted. Yep.
Come on, we were on the Leviathan together for that.
Yep.
Is that part of that season though, or
exactly?
Is that
just... Okay,
no, exactly.
Hold on. Everybody,
I like that.
Now, anybody who is crazy enough to listen to a Destiny podcast, I know you all bought the damn deluxe edition and you play every season, so you get it all anyway. So then
you call me a cop out. I answered the question. I answered the question. You cop out, sir.
Hey, I'm not judging it based. I'm
above made a point though. He's like, fam, that ain't part of the.
But
we're out of here.
Hey, he twisted the rules. But
even without Duality, for me, Haunted
fire. Go ahead.
But even without Duality, like even if you take the dungeons and the raids out of there, for me it was I enjoyed. Yeah, you were watching dialogue. I'll give you that. But I was enjoying understanding the backstory, and especially seeing someone like Zavala go like have depth, because we've always known him as this just kind of like ironclad dude holding down the fort, and you know something was back there, and we finally got to see it. Now, the Crow was a little fast on the resolution, but I enjoyed Caiatl and Callus and some of the backstory we got there. The story for me in Haunted was better than Plunder. And Plunder was also worse because the activity drove me bonkers because I didn't want to do expeditions. So even if it was the Leviathan that did get a lot of repetition, it was the story for me that took it over the top. And then it would be Risen and then Seraph. Because Risen
dungeon take?
Risen was like 4 weeks. It was the tightest story we have ever had. It was like bam, 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 Brackus Forge. Like you got cool lore, you got to have Caiatl now involved, and you got like Crow about to just, basically say, hey, you got to take me, and Lord Saladin steps in, like, take me instead.
Body for a body, that was fire.
So that that went down in the hangar. Yeah, that went down in the hangar, and you're going, okay, we're alive still. Okay, nobody really killed each other. And it was just this really tight story. And again, the Battlegrounds, it was a more focused season on one activity. That was mine.
Yeah. No, I get you. And I just want to, before we move on, I want to give Seraph some love because
I think we gave it plenty, but yeah.
But I really want to, the respecting of time investment, the drop protection, the red border protection. And it was my personal most fun seasonal activity because it was the first time they added that almost mini contest mode 5 levels above. You couldn't just waltz through it. You felt like you was in the mix. And best loot pool. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man above. I was getting my god roll. What's that? Stasis linear with the
Fire and
Fury, man. I'm telling you, and
I just got that pattern finally.
The trace with Volt Shot. Good lord, that joint is fire. Like, they had weapons all across the board and respected the investment. And then you throw the Warmind lore on top of it. It was golden age for me. So that was my last.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you can just literally look at the progression of like what was like to craft stuff at the start to where we are now. That's just the year of them learning and like adapting that type of stuff.
All I gotta say,
you guys a question.
Last point.
How do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is the last point for Ebontis' take on dungeons, including them in seasons.
Oh my god!
If anybody out there is wondering why Ebontis would have such a whack take,
Jesus,
it is because he's been spending ungodly amounts of time with Paul Tassi lately. They have been hanging out all the time. He and Paul Tassi. It's Paul Tassi's fault.
They confirm or deny?
And neither confirm nor deny above.
I was just gonna say one last thing. I think despite being very burnt out on this seasonal model, I think this season by far refined it and tuned it to be more enjoyable for like the overall player base. It didn't seem as grindy or like just unnecessary. You're spending time out of the activity. So props where props are due. Like, I think they actually did a really good job with that specific part. Would I like to see them innovate? Absolutely. I think a lot of players are really sick of it. And to Ebontis' point, I think Plunder was kind of a low point. Like, in terms of player population numbers, I think a lot of people started to get pretty burnt out on it. My question would be, how did you guys find the exotic mission this time around relative to other previous ones? So like Presage, or activities like that, because I thought the scale of it and the fit with the rest of the season, I thought it was really fun. And what they're doing like with the catalyst each week actually gives you a reason to go back. The difficulty honestly was kind of crazy. The enemies are like just absolute bullet sponges, which is not sure how I feel about that, but I thought it was a really good mission personally. I'd be interested to get your take.
I'm curious about this.
So, I mean, if you think through exotic missions, we've got Vox Obscura, which for me is more half about a vehicle, and then this little tiny smashed crazy section. I don't love Vox Obscura. It's a lower one for me. Glycon,
that's the least for me as well.
Yeah, Glycon, first time through that, just the way they built the sound, the environment, basically alien and a mission, still kind of epic. And then just the lore and story behind it with the crown and DMT and the Guardian, like, that one's probably up there. This one for me, because I have not burned out on Deepstone Crypt. I have not run it that much. I've run it a little bit, but not that much. So again, might have a very opposite take from Travis, because he ran it 80 times for his damn Eyes of Tomorrow. So it's like I can understand seeing this thing and being like, oh, I've been there and done that. But I would say like the set pieces of this one. We got another spacewalk, which some people haven't even seen one of those before, so it's just awesome to see. The Traveler in the skybox was really good. And then I think the difficulty, it's like I'm doing the solo Legend Flawless, like I've got my video up there for that, was a fun, doable little pucker challenge. But I mean, it was not a Grandmaster where like you have an eyebrow out of place and you die. It's like it was manageable.
Yeah.
There's way too many deaths that prove that one. But
you know what's an underrated aspect of that mission too, in my opinion, is something I don't think Destiny does well enough, especially like in the new Light experience, is directing players on what to do with like pretty basic mechanics.
Yes.
That mission did such a good job of that.
Yes.
Like I was actually very impressed.
I'm really sad. Like as soon as I was going through this, I'm like, this mission should be like, you have to run this mission before you go run Deepstone Crypt because you're going to understand the mechanic. It is literally it is the what is that stupid mission for Val that does the same thing for the opening? Preservation.
Oh, God.
Preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a preservation, but it's for basically the mechanics of Deepstone Crypt. So you have like mini mechanics in an exotic mission. It's like an opener to a raid. You've got a spacewalk, and you've got like decent mini boss fights. You've got the triple brig room with like enemy density to. There's a ton of ads that come up in that room. There's a point where you kind of give up your weapons and do the little teleport onto the catch and jump back on. I think Glycon's still just probably one of my favorites, at least exotic. I mean, we're not going all the way back to Whisper. I'm just saying a little more recent. But this one I would say it's very good. Like it's definitely up there. It tops more of the other ones I can think of, at least.
Yeah.
Travis?
Really? I'm surprised. I think it's probably one of my least favorite ones, and I don't mean that as like I hate it or whatever. I think it's very good. I just think when you compare like obviously I think Hawkmoon's like the worst one, if that even counts as an exotic mission.
Harbinger.
That one's kind of that one's
man,
pretty
that
whack.
is awful to solo too, or at least it was.
That one's pretty whack. But like all the other ones, like obviously Whisper of the Worm is like goated.
Yeah,
that's
Whisper.
Like that's
like 0 hour.
Classify those differently. Like I feel like Whisper and 0 hour are their own secret mission, and then like they've kind of transferred into the exotic mission realm where like we know that they're coming. Like they're not. You don't just discover them in the open world. I guess if that makes sense.
Fine. If they've transitioned to it, I will still call it worse than the secret version. I would prefer. I would prefer if they did it the old way, because those I feel like were peak. Like amazing, discoverable. They had their own soundtracks. I mean, just like that to me, that was like so high quality.
Destiny's at its best. I mean, those I know. The secrets. It's hard to beat.
It's when they don't treat their audience stupid. They do very well, because it turns out that the players really like to figure that stuff out and do challenging jumping puzzles and challenging combat encounters that are on a timer. That was sort of new as well. And I feel like my big criticism with this one is that it does treat you stupid, and I'm fine with that. Like, look, there at some point they have to explain some of the mechanics of Destiny, and I think it is to your guys' point, it's a good way to get people kind of used to raid mechanics before they jump into the raid. I think that's great. The fact that they did it 2 years after the raid came out, maybe less cool.
That's a little odd timing.
Maybe they should have done it the other way. But I'm just more of a fan of the ones where there was that discoverability and kind of the weirdness of it and the difficulty and so I kind of see the recent exotic missions as a bit of a step back. That's just me. They're still good though. Yeah. They're still good. I'm not talking like Season of the Plunder bad. I'm talking like they're still good missions, and I think it's probably one of the best parts of the season. I think
they definitely beat like Vox Obscura for me, like by far. And to your point, like Harbinger, I think are just like way down the totem pole compared to
it's almost like 2 tiers. Yeah, I was gonna say Presage and Operation Seraph Shield are like I could see people like those are gonna, and then the other two really are like a step down, because then you got Harbinger, which is kind of just going through, and then the Vox Obscura with the tank and the timer. I
remember Vox Obscura. Yeah, you're right. Those ones aren't as good.
So we've got like 3 tiers. We've got low tier exotic, we've got high tier exotic, and now we've got secret missions. Because 0 hour and Whisper of the Worm, I don't know if they'll ever. I don't know if they can top one of those. Trust me, you're gonna hear just me jumping for joy, dude.
Yep.
Do it.
What was the final boss in Presage? I'm trying to remember now.
Presage?
It was
the big chief, the big Scorn chieftain dude, fire guy.
Yeah,
we had to go
underneath
underground.
Yeah, I like that, Jack. I like that. No, listen, I mean, this is close. They're both good. It comes down to what you said for me. Those final two. I have such an affinity for Deepstone Crypt, so the aesthetic. So when I was in this felt good. You know, obviously you got some of the suppression, the whole mechanics from that. It's tough for me. I like both. I guess as a full package, maybe I could have a slight edge to Seraph. I probably would get a slight, but there was something really cool about the mystery and the haunted feel of Presage. It was something really unique that I felt they've really never done before. But then again, it's tough for me. And I want to give them credit with Seraph. I like the introduction of this whole mechanic of the Seraph Towers trying to kill you, and you have to hide. Yeah, something about that. I'm like, that's cool.
That's just this season. Yeah.
You know what I found out?
World mechanic, basically, right?
Yes.
You know what I found out, kind of on accident?
What you found out?
You can survive the towers hitting you if you use Antaeus Ward.
Are you serious?
Really?
you can deflect the laser.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually got away from it a couple times because like I saw the laser go off and I just did a slide and then I saw the laser just go fly away and I was like, oh, I made it through. And a couple times I did it, the laser would after I blocked it initially, I would get back up normally and the laser would just be on me and I wouldn't die. Because I guess if you get rid
of the timer,
if you get rid of it initially, it just won't damage you after that. Sometimes it works like 20% of the time.
That's cool.
Travis, the next step is to reflect it back and destroy the towers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
you need a perfect parry. Perfect parry.
I'm sure you guys want to move on, but the one point from Travis that I thought was super interesting is like they need to do those mechanic introductions before the bigger event. So like, for example, a really cool one would have been if they did the Lament quest before DSC dropped and you kind of get exposure into the crypt and they introduced some sort of mechanic like depositing the herbs before, especially because now they have like the 2 weeks leading up to the raid. That's a lot of time to fill, the first day's campaign, and then you start to dive into the 6-man activity.
For us crazy people, the first day is campaign. There's people who aren't even logging on until the weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like maybe first week's campaign, and then you start to dive into like the other stuff. It would be cool to like introduce that and be like, hey, if you want to like little preview. I mean, maybe that would be kind of spoiling mechanics, and the hardcore raiders wouldn't enjoy that as much.
Yeah, that's probably a debate. But I feel like kind of let the new raid race happen for the crazy people like all of us who want to go experience it day one, but then like, not too much later, release a mission that kind of does what this does, but for the current raid, like have some exotic or some mission tie into what the current raid is for the player base who sees this and is like, hey, if you enjoyed this, here's a raid you should go check out. So that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of get your take. I know this may be a long episode, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. But if you guys are good, stick with me. I wanted to get your take real quick above on loadouts. We touched on it before, but I know as you are Grandmaster, Gauntlet guy, messing with everybody and loadouts and everything, this is like game changer for you. Like you may as well just clean slate almost your entire bit of armor because we don't quite know how mods are going to work, armor charge and all that stuff. And I just kind of wanted to see, is there anything you're worried about with this new system and anything you're really excited about with, besides obviously like match game, which, that's crazy, but yeah, where are you at in the highs and lows of just the loadouts for you?
It's a very good question. I think, okay, so I'm going to pull a Travis for Destiny. It's very good. I think what they're doing, obviously we have to get our hands on them first. I think it's going to be a huge step up from what's in the game right now. And so for people who aren't familiar with third-party apps like DIM or, D2 Armor Picker, like all these amazing third-party resources that are out there, for people in game who are just coming in the game, they'll be like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's going to be a huge game changer for like probably the majority of people who don't use those third-party apps. For me, however, one of the things that did surprise me is they confirmed it's 10 loadouts per character. So in terms of volume, I think that's there, actually. I was worried it was going to be 10 total, and I was like, man.
Per account,
between PvP and PvE and all the subclasses, I don't think that's going to be enough. 10 per character, I think, will be. So that was good. I think, however, if it gives you the ability to change loadouts in activity, which Dim does not do, I think that's a huge bonus. So we'll kind of wait and see on that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people will still default to Dim if it doesn't have, like if it isn't able to change out your mods, for example. Like, yeah, you could have a build. Okay, I want these 3 weapons, and I want these aspects and fragments. If it's as basic as that, like, I'm not going to use it. If it's as detailed as, okay, I want 3 resilience mods on this set, and I want powerful friends here, and I want font of might or whatever. I mean, you name it. Like, the more in depth you get into build crafting, the more stuff that system has to change around for every single build to get the stats that you want. So it's just a huge wait and see question mark for me. Like, it could be good, or it could be something I don't use at all, to be frankly honest. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen with the mod customization, I mean, it does look at, I mean, you can pick your stat, you can do like your 3 mods, that type of, it does look like the mods are going to be an option. I think they've also said weapon perk choices theoretically might, some of those be in there as well. There are some things you're not going to be able to mess with, ghosts and cosmetics, and that's obviously, little stuff here and there, but I do think the mods will be there. My actual worry, I was going to ask you, because you've got to have any and all sets of armor you may ever need, stat-wise, right? You're probably pretty good as much as you've run. Now, this does make it to where you're like, okay, so this loadout has this sets of stats. I got my stuff where I want it. But now my question is, when you log into Lightfall and you get an armor drop and you have already got stats pretty much covered, once you have those loadouts like locked in the game, I mean, are you literally just going to, this is a worry for me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to care about any armor drop. Outside of maybe a literal like raid mod specific one, but most of the armor in the game, if you have a decent stat loadout that you're happy with, pretty much every armor drop is, and we'll get to when it like focusing costs on armor, which just boggles my mind that even exists, but we'll get to that in a second. But like,
sure,
it just makes me like, is that a reasonable thing, or is that something you even like think about? Is it?
So honestly, that point that you just made, I think affects me now. I don't think that has anything to do with the loadouts personally. Like, I think as much as people don't want to hear this, I mean, this is going to be a spicy take.
I've probably already said it.
Live service games, to an extent, benefit from the sunsetting of gear because it incentivizes you to continue pursuing loot. So right now we're running into an issue where, for those of you who have Forbearance, for example, know how insanely strong that weapon is. I'm not calling for a nerf.
Yeah, watch him
I'm just saying, for a weapon to come out in the new Lightfall raid that would dethrone Forbearance would be so unbelievably strong that I'd be concerned for the game's difficulty at that point. Like, that gun, basically, you close your eyes, you shoot at the floor, and everything in the room dies. So for something to dethrone that would have to be even crazier, to the point where I would put that weapon down. The same thing goes for armor. If I get a max roll, perfect distribution, which obviously this is an endgame player problem, but like, everybody will get to this point where like, okay, even some of the seasonal armor starts to, that you get from the seasons pass starts to drop really nice stats towards the end of the season pass that you can get for the $10 or whatever it is. You get a really nice guaranteed piece of armor. You can do Umbral focusing in the helm for really strong armor rolls. You can go run Dares of Eternity and get really, really high stat armor. So like, I don't think that necessarily has to do anything with the loadouts, but more of it's just a factor of, we don't have sunsetting in the game. So either we power creep like crazy, or you're in motivation to go farm out the same Outlaw Frenzy hand cannon or chain reaction GL or another Volt Shot primary, kind of loses that, that it just doesn't entice you as much to run those activities. Like, say that we have another seasonal model next season, Travis, where it's like that same grid, and there's like, everybody's talking about this Volt Shot primary that you have to have. Like, are you going to be that enticed to go grab it if the activity's not that enjoyable? I don't know if I would be. But yeah, so
I never am, which is why I've never completed any of them. I've never completed any of those grids.
Yeah,
ever, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of me for doing that, or for not doing it rather. But as a PvP tryhard, I'm constantly chasing the meta. And I will not lie, I've had to chase weapons I did not want to chase because the KD demanded it. The ratio guides us all.
Were you worried about getting ratioed? Hey.
No, but yeah, I know what that is.
I mean, I've been there
grinding on enjoyable activities is not fun.
Yeah.
And having to do the same thing over and over again to get the thing that you want is not fun. Talk to me about the Touch of Malice and the bow from the dungeon I still don't have, and all of the curated weapons that I've had to do, Valve Disciple more times than I care to admit to get the red borders and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. We've talked about on the show that I was one of the supporters of sunsetting weapons, and when everybody was celebrating when it got turned, I was like, Bungie messed up. The problem wasn't the idea, the problem was how they executed it.
100%.
They did the worst possible version of sunsetting weapons, which was not actually experiment and have fun with the sandbox, not come out with a whole bunch of replacements for it, just re-release the same old crap, and basically make it a completely unnecessary grind fest.
Well, and there were little gaps in the sandbox when sunsetting dropped. Like there was not a void SMG in the game.
Yeah,
I was like, bro,
bows were next to impossible to get.
I'm like, dude, how are you? Of course, people are upset. They lost all their favorite weapons, and there's nothing. Like if they had done it after Chosen and Splicer, for example, where like you're getting a slide shot ignition code, you're getting like all just the crazy weapons from Chosen. There were so many good weapons that came out. Like if they had done that, people would have been like, oh, this is whatever, like I can't use my recluse in endgame content, but at least there's a bunch of cool weapons to take their place. But yeah, with Beyond Light, was it like 32 weapons or something total?
It was not enough versus dropping.
It was just too much. They dropped 8 seasons worth of weapons. Like that's crazy.
No, my big thing right now is weapons. Like you could grind for a different looking weapon, maybe of the same archetype, somewhat similar perks, and they've been really good with like keeping kind of a perk fluctuation. When we're getting incandescent, it sounds like somewhere in one of those podcasts that Void is going to get its version of its kind of incandescent thing at some point coming as well, so keep an eye out for that theoretically. But weapons can seem to continue to evolve. We got origin traits on them and stuff now.
I was just about to say,
but armor, if you sunset armor at any point in this whole equation, you would just basically like, hey, let me go get the thing I just had. Like there is no difference in armor at this point, and that's where they do need to like do something to that side of the equation, because again, you've got 14 times over, you've had it for a while because you'd run all this crazy stuff, and then some people get to a point, and it could be later, it could be now, it could be a little farther down the road, but at some point, if you even if you sunset armor and you're like, hey, I had the 66 stat roll. Well, now that you sunset it, what do you want? I want my 66 stat roll back. Like that feels bad. So they've got to do something with armor to where it's different. So that's why I don't know what it is, but maybe final shape is going to be some type of armor thing. I don't know, but I'm not sure what the fix is, but I do think at this point, most armor drops, especially when you get to a pretty decent stat place, are starting to be more and more garbage for me. And that's just, it's a weird thing to think about. Like half my screen is kind of like, meh.
I mean, and I'm no game designer. Like that's a tough,
a tough thing. Yeah.
That's a tough equation to solve, to be honest. I think a lot of times, I don't know how you guys feel about soft, like full on, like hard resets in games, but like to me, I used to be like an avid FIFA player, and I would play the same game every year. Like I was an Ultimate Team. I used to play for fun in college. And like every year you reset and you repeat and you start fresh. To me, that was pretty fun because everybody's starting in the same place. So it's like that race to get back and get like cool weapons again.
We need one of those again.
Yeah, like when you
also get cool weapons in FIFA, if you didn't know.
True.
Great.
But like
street,
I don't know.
Out there in the streets.
It's just, I don't know. It's a tough answer to solve. A part of it was like the resilience change, as bad as I personally think it was for the game, maybe as an elitist. I'm glad that they're toning it back.
Yeah.
Because I think you can just get away with way too much right now.
Mhm.
But it did shift the meta in terms of like a stat that was completely useless for 3 years in this game. Was
what
all of a
subclass
sudden
are you?
like
What class are you?
I play all three, honestly.
Just as a Titan main, I will say the buff at least finally gave my class stats some love for a while. So it's like on the other side, well, it's like recovery. Like, hey, you get your health back faster. It's good in PvP. Rich get richer. We were broke for a while. Talk to me about Stasis.
Woe is the Titan. Woe is the Titan.
How's that Behemoth? How's that Behemoth for Shadebinder debate going?
Get one subclass bad and they act like everything else Titans do are the worst. Stop it.
The main thing is like the intellect recov meta was around for so long that like everybody had armor stacked for those two stats. It was like double 100s, and then Rezo came around. Everybody's like, "Oh shit! Like I need to go grind brand new armor." To me, that was kind of fun. Like I enjoyed having to go chase armor again and have a reason to be even looking out at that stuff. But now it's like, okay, well, if we go back to a recov intellect meta, I have that gear. If we are in a resilience meta, I have that gear. If for some reason strength comes in, I don't know. I guess I'd be shocked. But like,
hey, you got that auto melee coming up, right? There's got to be a reason for it.
There you go. But yeah, I don't know.
It's very interesting to me the relationship between the developer and the player in live game service, because it's sort of like the developer is the parent or the school teacher that's saying like eat your vegetables or do your homework, and the player is a petulant child that doesn't want to do that stuff. And understandable, it's their money, it's their time, they don't want to do things they don't want to do, but they don't know when to take their medicine, right? And they complain about things that are absolutely in their interest. It's like, oh, we hate skill-based matchmaking. Well, unfortunately, skill-based matchmaking is the only way to make matchmaking playable for most of you guys that are complaining about this. Oh, we hate sunsetting. Well, sunsetting is actually a healthy part of game design. It's kind of the only thing that gives you incentive to play. It's also the only way that developers can try new and weird stuff with their weapons. And I 100% agree with you, Bob. I think people like you are the adults in the room, and it's nice to have them, but I feel like a lot of players don't understand what is in their best interest. Even if I get it, dude, it's annoying to have to like grind for the weapons and for the old ones that you worked hard for to not matter anymore.
Yeah.
100% get it. I get that. But do you want the overall health of the game? Do you want every weapon to be a carbon copy of the last one because they're afraid to try new stuff because there's no taking it back once they introduce a weapon that's overpowered or whatever?
I hate that they don't get to do that because they're like, we're gonna make awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And then
but that said, I also see the player perspective where they promised that when they introduced sunsetting, hey, this is going to open us up to do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then they didn't do it. Then they were like, oh no, we're just going to be super lazy and not actually full sandbox up with shit. Right. So that is also I get why players feel burned on that.
Man, and I don't think they can ever go back on. People would lose their mind if they did sunsetting 2.0 this time. Like,
of course.
Well, they basically are soft doing
they're soft doing it.
Yeah, like origin traits on things were a way for you to kind of get away from that because they're not too strong, but they're a little bit better. So if they reissue something, you got an old one, of course it's better. So they're kind of getting around it, some of it that way, as you're saying. But yeah, that's where the armor for me is a head scratcher, and we can move on. But that's why I was like, I fully agree. Like,
also,
I mean, at some point post final shape, we need to like blow up my vault again. Like, I'm okay with that because then they can make a bunch of cool stuff again.
Also, nerfs are the new sunsetting. Let's be honest.
In a way,
that's how they deal with
cyclical nature of like, hey, linear fusion's
it's the
too
same
good.
Thing.
Linear fusion's bad.
Sunsetting honestly has a branding problem. If they would just change the brand and call it something else, players would be fine and they'd be like, "Oh, this is fun. We're getting to try new things." It's just they can't call it sunsetting.
We're archiving weapons now.
Yeah, right. We're
as much as I recognize like all these arguments that I'm making, like I get that it's from a perspective of someone who plays this all the time. Right, and I get the frustration of like
how many hours you got?
Dude,
5, 6, maybe.
No, like 10 hours or something.
Okay, calm down.
I mean, I see the perspective of like, oh, well, I logged in. As much as people joke about like the dads playing Destiny for 2 hours a week or whatever, like, I mean, that's a reality. I mean, shit, if I have a family someday, I want to hop on and play for a few hours a week. Like when when gaming's not my 100% focus anymore, and like my weapons are there. I don't want my stuff going away. And the thing is, like you said, like they they don't want what's best for the game. They probably don't not to talk down to people, but like they don't know the ins and outs of this game the way like someone who has like 6, 7, 8,000 hours might know of like what's truly healthy or going to plague like the longevity of the game, because they may not care. They don't play it as much. So they don't realize like, oh yeah, like just instead of nerfing stuff, which they will also complain about, just buff everything else up to its level. Well, then you lead to power creep that just keeps
power creep and bullet sponges, and then you've got humans and you've got humans in the division that take 7,000 bullets. No, I mean that's I don't envy them trying to ever walk this line. But again, even Revoker recently, they're like, hey, let's take power level out because it's really annoying to go into Iron Banner, and then you have a Revoker that needs a nerf, and you're like, that right there is a prime example of what you need. There has to be a hard cutoff at some point, and people just need to. And they're like, that's an example. So, I mean, what if there was a point where it's like, oh, well, DMT was good for a couple years, but going into Lightfall, we're just turning that button off. And it's like, you don't have to see DMT in trials and PvP anymore. People would be like, oh, man, you're taking away my gun. And then like 80% of the player base is, thank God. So it's...
Thank God I don't have to deal with that thing anymore.
Yeah, so it's like, it's like you're never going to make everybody happy, but for the health of the game, sometimes like you gotta, as Travis said so eloquently, you gotta take your medicine every so often. Swallow the pill. It may not taste very good, but in the end, it's better in the long run.
Yep.
Well, this has already been a longer podcast than I thought it was going to be. That being said, there was a PC Gamer article this week, and we got a few little tweets from that with regards to, like, a couple pieces here. Are they going to replicate Font of Might? Kind of, pretty close. Will Volt Shot stun a champion? Yes, it will. I think that was actually probably the most exciting thing out of me, is because I was like, and then it's the whole thing about, and I made a video on it today, like Chill Clip, potent little perk now, because before it was like, oh, you need to kind of slow somebody down or stop a barrier. One shot of a Chill Clip weapon will now stun an Overload. 2 shots, when it shatters, will stun an Unstop. And then if you are running a Solar subclass with that weapon and you're Radiant, now you can break a barrier shield. All with one weapon. Like, the flexibility it sounds like we're going to be getting is more than expected, I guess I would say. So I was curious if there's anything you guys pulled from that article. I know that was like the main one that I pulled, was that those are going to be cool. Anything you guys saw from that, or nothing too major?
Still above. Did you catch it?
I mean, as someone who runs Grandmasters, and the meta gets very stale, running Arbalist 24/7.
100%.
I mean, like, luckily Wishender got updated, and that gun's a lot of fun to like mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is a great change. I mean, the more variety you can have in the sandbox, and the ability to like, deal with champions in like fun and innovative ways that has some sort of skill gap to it in most cases, like using your abilities and timing that to break champs, I think is a really good thing. My concern is Arc Titan just gets like even better. Like that I don't know if you guys have played much Arc Titan.
Dominant?
Titan main.
One would think that Titans don't have anything going for them.
Hey.
Part of it most played Arc Titan.
I will never argue with you when you were talking about Titan supremacy. We are better. Accept your compliment. Thank you.
Except that you acknowledge, what's going on.
No, we're better. We're better. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I violently agree with you.
Violently. According to some Titans on this cast. But continue, bro.
No, we're better than you. I get it.
That's the only thing I worry about a little bit is like,
we got to take this outside. It's fine.
Insanely strong, and it's just going to get even better with this change. But because I feel like the other one's kind of, there's like some sort of skill gap to activating those abilities. With Titan, you just you do the little thruster dodge, you throw a nade, and then everything dead, and then you're amplified, and then every champion's
done. Is that one of the top builds in Destiny? Above, is that one of the top builds in Destiny? Like, what's the top like meta defining build? What would you say in your estimation? In Destiny, what's the top thing?
If you guys are running Grandmasters, Arc Titan is by far. Not even close. The most broken subclass by a mile.
Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear what the top guys are saying about the top class and the top? Okay,
for the first time in how long?
Oh, stop it,
Cog.
Seriously, how long over the course of Destiny?
Hold on.
You want to real answer to that?
I got one more question. And then before that, I got one more question. Before that, when Solar 3.0 came out, How did the Solar Titan rank above?
Oh, it was number one. Yeah, it was number
Oh,
one.
yeah, okay.
The thing is,
all right.
I'm done now.
Ebontis.
How long has your
Ebontis.
Well of Radiance existed? I'm out.
Ebontis.
Well is the best overall for sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Wait.
In
Ebontis.
every situation.
Let Cog cook. Let Cog cook. He's praising Titans. He's talking about our supremacy.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm on board with this. He's right. We are better. We always have been. We always will be. Nerfs have nothing to do with it. You can't nerf these hands. Sorry, Bungie. Deal with it.
Do it. As long as you acknowledge.
You know what's funny is I speak out of that as like someone who's mained a hunter for God knows how long. Like
you guys have it hard out here in these streets.
When GMs were first
PvP
introduced,
so
like
hard.
people forget how difficult original GMs were. Like Garden World. I don't know if you guys.
Oh
did that.
God.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So like I was used to being like Invis Hunter. We're helping 2 people through all the time. Like I'm full try hard, like doing everything I can on a hunter to just stay alive. Now it's like, I mean, dude, you just roll down with a Heart of Inmost Light build, you throw a nade, and then you're focusing on another lane with Forbearance, and just everything's exploding and dead, and everything's jolting to get together. And it's just crazy. It's so much fun. But yeah, I think the point is, I think that class is going to get even more, like it's going to be even stronger with this change because now it can stun.
Now now granted, this is a sample size of 1, but if you go look at Esoteric and you watch what class he uses first time.
Best guy in Destiny, the robot of Destiny, the android of Destiny.
No, but you want to know what class he goes to knock something out first. Not saying he can't do it with all of them, but what does he go to first? Every single time. It's Warlock. Every time. Warlock devoured, Nova Bomb.
That, to be fair, I mean,
for the longest time, that has been a reliable thing.
It's a very good subclass. I think, honestly, all 3.0 subclasses are very, very strong.
3.0 Warlock is very good.
It's very good. A lot of it comes down to what you're comfortable with. Like if he's comfortable on a Devour lock, more power to him. You will see in like every speed run, in every you'll see top end player like Salt or Vendetta. They go in there on a Void Titan or an Arc Titan, and they will run GMs over in 15 minutes solo. Like it's crazy. So if you learn to play aggressive and use those, I mean, they're just
like the easy button,
insanely strong. Yeah.
I think as Titans,
keep talking.
I was going to say, I just think as Titans, we got so screwed over by Stasis, it still just hurts a little bit. I think that's what it is. And then the fact that it's still not good, and I feel like Shadebinder now pains me in PvP more than it used to. I think that might be where I may be a little bit. Anyway, we got some economy updates. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this in detail because there's like 6,000 shaders that A1 is going to sell over the
Boston.
Shaders. Got the shaders up here. Yeah, I have an accent of a place I've never lived, but I was born up there, so it's coming out. Yeah, she's going to sell 3 different shaders, a bunch of different ones. I mean, she's going to go back through like some of the movement shaders from what is it? Season of the Forges? Is that right?
Yeah, the Black Armory.
Black Armory, Black Armory. So like all those crazy ones to think about. The big thing I wanted to ask you guys is we've got weapons that are going to be for Vanguard. So you've got Xenoclast, Third Axiom, Royal Entry, Empty Vessel, Punching Out, Fortissimo, Strident Whistle, Pure Poetry, Prolonged Engagement. It's like, you could kind of give or take some of those. Nightfall weapon focusing. We got Malicious Birthright, Mindbender's Ambition, Wendigo, Hung Jury, Swarm, Buzzard. What I wanted to get to is the currency cost. When it comes to Adept Nightfall weapons or Trials is probably my one positive line on this. Most of this, in my opinion, is like, hey, this old stuff, you can go after it, but it's so cost prohibitive on some of this stuff, there's not much of a point.
Yeah.
At least to me.
I don't know. On that, it's funny. I actually put out a tweet yesterday. We made a video like a year and a half ago talking about like a very similar system to what they put into the game. To an extent, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on it. Like, I think it's great that they're bringing back like older weapons because like there is that FOMO factor. No. And for the players who I think care enough about the fact that they missed out, will have a way to acquire those guns. I do think there needs to be like I mean, I don't know how you do it necessarily, but like there does need to be a little bit of like you had to be there thing to me personally. So no, if you need to go back and it's a little more painful to grind out, but you can still get it. To me, honestly, that's like kind of okay. Maybe that's elitist, but like I don't know. Like
okay, well,
yeah,
you're not wrong. Like, and again, I think this is why they're trying to leave some of the stuff in the past, because they're not making this readily accessible, especially for people who weren't there. Nightfall focusing, for example. If a player has not acquired a weapon previously, so these are Nightfall legacy focusing. We're going to go through Plug 1, Azume, Hothead would be the popular one, Comedian, no, Duty Bound, no, Silicon Roma, DFA, Horror's Lease is probably okay. Grind Horror's Lease this week. Don't do this. If you have not acquired a weapon previously, it requires 7 Vanguard Engrams, 100 Legendary Shards, and 10,000 Glimmer. Now, the Shards for a new player could be somewhat prohibitive. Glimmer, not too bad, but 7 Vanguard Engrams. Maybe you want 1 Horror's Least and 1 Hothead, and you've never had them before. That is almost an entire reset of Zavala to get 2 weapons. And guess what? Those are going to be random. They could be both trash. And you just wasted 14 Engrams. Now, most of the stuff at like Zavala, Shax, and Drifter, they're not usually amazing weapons, but there's some decent stuff in there. But they usually also have some of the biggest perk pools too, especially some more of the newer ones. But if you're going to say it's going to cost you 7 Vanguard Engrams for a player who didn't have that to go after 1 roll of a Horror's Least, and then you get this like, and then you get like an underdog, anything, it could just have underdog on it, and then it's basically done. Like certain things like that, and I'm going, to me, the cost of time, not so much even the materials on something, but the time is the Vanguard Engrams, because it's not like they're going to break this into now the ranks of like 6 ranks and you get more Engrams. It's probably going to be the same system, same time to go through. That's where it seems cost prohibitive to me.
I agree with you. I think the way that we actually proposed it in the video that I made was you use Ascendant Shards and a couple Prisms and then legendary shards, and that allows you to focus. You would need, so basically the system was like, you go and run a GM, it gives you a token or some sort of currency that you can then trade in.
A Depth Cipher, perhaps?
I don't think, something like that, right? So like, I'm all against not adding more currencies, by the way, but like, to me, or like some like something like a reputation thing at Zavala. I don't think the engrams are necessarily the right thing to do that, because to your point, A, that's very time consuming and expensive, and B, like there are actually some worthwhile weapons to focus. Like for example, the Chill Clip Fusion from Shax is a very good weapon in PvE. There's reasons people are, Riptide's fantastic. So I would like to see the fact that I think your argument for like new players is not friendly. I mean, maybe elitist, I guess, but like new players, if they want to be an endgame content, it is an endgame playlist for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect new lights to pick up the game and be running GMs in 6 days. And they're like, oh, well, I don't have the shards to get these adept weapons. I'm like, well, you're not there in the Destiny cycle yet. Like, play, do the rest of the content first. And in a couple months, maybe, that's something you could do.
Yeah, for the recent stuff that we're going to be able to go for, like the ciphers. So if you do a platinum Grandmaster, you're going to get 2 ciphers of these new currency, which Travis is excited about. Gold, you get 1. Silver, you get 0. And then if you want to focus a Nightfall weapon, it's going to take you 1 engram, 20,000 glimmer, and 25 shards. If it's a normal Nightfall weapon that week, it's going to cost you 0 ciphers. But if you want to focus an adept weapon, it's going to cost you 10 adept ciphers. So basically, you have to run 5 GMs, of which you're going to be getting drops of that weapon anyway. And this is basically just a way for you to cash in for 1 more. I think that's all I read this as.
I think they could drop the engrams completely from the requirement.
Engrams is the issue.
And in my opinion, replace it with Ascendant Shards and a few Prisms, because they are guaranteed on GM completion. So if you want those weapons, you're basically saying, okay, I did this GM to turn in my Ascendant Shard and focus a weapon that I want.
See, that I like.
And maybe you're giving up, okay, well, now I can't masterwork a piece of armor. Well, go run another like you did it once. You can go, if you really care about that, go farm another one. If you're at the point where you can focus adepts, I don't think that's asking too much, because it is a guaranteed currency now. whereas before it was an RNG chance. So personally for me, I feel like instead of the engrams, just swap that and you're good to go. And
that
it
would
make
be more
way
okay
sense.
with that, because again, you get to Adept Nightfalls, it's 3 Vanguard Engrams. You could run 5 Grandmaster Nightfalls. You theoretically, if you're far enough into your season, like your Vanguard ranks, you wouldn't you could run 5 Grandmasters and you wouldn't get enough reputation for 3 Engrams. So then you got to go do basic strikes just to get your Engrams to cash in your Grandmaster loot. Like,
and you're running into the Season of the Plunder issue where you're running something else to get what you really
exactly
want. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, the ciphers is like a way. Travis is just loving this. If you guys aren't catching the video, but again, like, I get the ciphers are a way for you to say like, hey, I'm cashing in my currency that I from GMs, and I want to go after 1 or 2 more of these weapons just because I put the time in. Here's a way for you to get a couple more. That I'm kind of okay with, but it's like when you get down to Iron Banner, this is where it gets pretty bad. So if you want to unlock old Iron Banner armor, for example, or weapons, theoretically either one for legacy focusing. And remember, Iron Banner armor, you got like 5 different sets people may want. If a player has not acquired a piece of Iron Banner armor previously, and this is where it bugs me because armor has less and less of a point, because now we're just like messing with stats and there's no guarantee of it being any good. 7 Iron Banner engrams, picture the time it takes to do that, for 1 piece. And how many, you got 5 sets of armor, 4, so you got 20 different pieces of armor, so then you need, you know,
you do all that and get the trash roll.
All that for a trash roll, and then you basically just turn it into like a transmog piece. And then if you have acquired it before, even if you have acquired it before, it's 3 engrams. And you're like, apparently I don't care about weapons now. So it's like the cost of going after any of this legacy stuff for me, somebody said it in chat when I was talking about it earlier. It seems like a very elaborate system for something that I don't think is going to get a whole lot of engagement or use, and is cost prohibitive mostly to the people who might actually get some use out of going after some legacy stuff. I understand if you want to put something like an Adept Wendigo or, you know, high level stuff, have a bit of a challenge to go for it. That's fine on the Adept ciphers, but I think on the legacy stuff that is typically not that strong. I mean, you're talking about like Archon's Thunder, Wristwalker, Occluded Finality, Forge's Pledge, Peace Bond, Frontier's Cry, and half of you guys probably don't even know what some of those weapons are just by name because they're not that memorable. Yeah. So that's just for me the weird one. Now, Trials, I will say, is my one happy point. When you get down to, my one happy point. Adept weapon focusing for Trials and Nightfall weapons will see the following costs. 1 Ritual Engram, Trials or Vanguard, depending on what it is, 50,000 Glimmer, 50 Legendary Shards, but for Trials, you just need a 7-win ticket. So in the course of a weekend, if you can get 7 wins, you actually can pull the slot machine for 1 Adept roll. So
we need to hear from Travis at this point.
Yeah. So Travis, where are you at in all this economy?
Yes. No. I refuse.
It's none of it.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm dead inside. You've hollowed me out. Okay? That's all I have to say about all of this. It's frustrating. It's annoying. I get what you're saying above about some of these currencies and how they don't, matter for new players that aren't at that level of Destiny. But the problem is that they're a part of the Destiny sandbox. They're poorly explained. You have to juggle 40 of them at the same time for no foreseeable reason. I
completely agree with you. Yeah,
it's part of a bloated, destructive economy problem in Destiny that needs solving, and I'm so sick of talking about it.
You don't like the addition of a new currency? You're not feeling this?
Can I make a counterpoint?
Please.
Let's go. Let's get a good argument on this.
Let's do it.
People argue all the time for skeleton keys to return.
Ooh, remember that. Yeah.
So whether you brand that as a cipher or a skeleton key, I think that gives you some sort of replayability and reason to go into the playlist, number 1.
Sure.
2, I don't think the engrams are correct. Like, to Ebontis' point, I think it should be like, okay, I'm grinding up my rep, I'm getting engrams. It should cost me 1 engram for 1 weapon, and then some sort of endgame cost if I want an Adept, whether that's a 7-win ticket in Trials or whether that's an Ascendant Shard from the GM playlist, because they're guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
It means that you've been in that playlist and you deserve to then go and focus a weapon if you want.
Yeah.
To Travis's point, I don't think they should be adding a million new currencies because we have you go up and I have to delete stuff out of my inventory tab because I can't hold enough.
I can't hold enough. Same.
But if we're using I don't like outside prisms don't have much use in the game other than masterworking armor, which to Ebontis's point, we're not doing that much anymore as a lot of endgame players because we have our builds. So I like, for me, I sit at 50 capped in my postmaster all the time. Same with shards, which I know, again, I do that content a lot. But like if I have a reason to at least go in and use those, like if I wanted to roll a weapon I missed out on, or, you know, maybe they add new perks to these weapons when they bring them back, like Volt Shot on, I don't know, the Shadow Price. Say that comes back and it gets Volt Shot. I'm like, suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm interested in that. I want to go and roll that weapon and focus it. I have a reason to go grind GMs. I have a reason to grind rep in Vanguard Strikes because I need an engram to, you know, unlock my ability to focus that weapon. I have ability to go play Trials because I need to go Flawless to focus a weapon that they're maybe bringing back where there's FOMO. It might not be as easy as it was to just go play a GM when the weapon was originally around, but I mean, that's the cost of not being there, but they're still giving you an avenue to go and get that weapon if they bring it back. So I think the way that they're doing it, they need to adjust it significantly, but I don't think it's a bad idea as long as they're not adding 20 new currencies to the pool because there's already way too many.
Sorry, I was reading chat. You're good. I was reading chat. No, I mean, I'm with Travis. Like the fact that we're now having I still have Forsaken ciphers in my inventory, and I don't have anything I could turn them into. I think Ascended shards. I think if I want to, but no, the fact that like I get, I go to the Blind Well for like bounty stacking or something, and I get the Charge with Light tier 1. I'm like, how are those still in the game? Just let me pick a node and turn it on. Like that's I mean, granted, we're at the 4th season of a year. So we're stacked with all the seasonal currencies right now. I've got 7 different ones. I've still got some leftover like spin metal.
Though.
Well, I mean,
give me a universal Umbral energy, please, across.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Shouldn't there be one currency in this game? I mean, loot is the currency, right? You do an activity, you get a drop. It is the thing you want. That's how every other looter shooter does it. It's not complicated. And then maybe you have a currency so that you can access weapons that you don't get as drops to account for randomness. That's like one thing, right? I do not understand the purpose of pretty much every other currency in the game. I really don't. I don't understand why it has to be a thing. I don't know why we have to have 3 currencies for transmog and optional, paid
I actually hit my cap on my Titan for transmog this season. I was just picking them up, working on enough of the dungeons. And I was like, why is that there?
That's my issue. Go ahead, continue.
Is it cap as well?
Yeah.
Why is there currency caps? Yeah, it's so.
I don't. I think
10 this, 5 honestly, this, 342 this. Like,
I think the reason I'm so frustrated with currencies in Destiny is because in some games, when you get a currency, it gives you a good feeling because in your brain you go, well, this currency translates into me getting something. In Destiny, currencies are not for you getting something. Currencies are a limiter to hold you back from getting what you want. Right. And you have to feed the beast to get it. And so when you deal with currencies, it's like, oh, this is another way for them to gate me to getting progress on whatever it is I'm trying to do, whether it's you trying to craft weapons that exist in the raid. Well, you got to dismantle this many raid weapons to get this freaking weird currency that just exists to prevent you from doing that thing. Yeah, you've got like every currency is designed to not let you do something. It's not the opposite where it's like
no, I mean, you're not right.
That's why it's so frustrating.
Wants though, you know,
of course it is, but that doesn't make it okay.
Engagement. I'm just like, it is for engagement. I 100% get that. That being said, I do think we could at least normalize the Umbral energy because
100%.
I was like, you could have
end of every season.
Well, I mean, not even wouldn't even technically have to do. I mean, they'll probably cap it at like 247 or something. But whatever whatever they do, if it's like the Lightfall Umbral energy, they want to use it for like an expansion or something. You're going to be using it during during season 20. When we get to season 21, guess what? You're going to go into season 21 still using the same stuff, and that previous activity's probably not getting done that much. So now you have the same one where you probably, gotta it. But yeah, it could be universal or something a little bit more. I mean, and cap it at like 100, so you can't go in and just like cash in a bunch of engrams. Or I mean, again, this is all for engagement and stuff like that, and stocking up on too much. But again, like I'm not going back to the war table. But if I was running more of the current activity, and I did want to go cash in on, you know, a couple of those old focused engrams that I didn't quite craft, still doing the current activity, which is probably where you want me, should still net me some benefits over the course of the year. So I like that idea. I know it's for engagement. I understand it, but yeah, I don't need serif key codes to open a chest. If I run a battleground, let me open the chest. I just did the activity. Don't let me like think about this one, but no, I haven't done this. I haven't run enough strikes, so I can't open this chest. I'm like, I'm in the new playlist. I bought your season pass. I'm where you want me to be.
Okay, you want me to be.
Let me open that thing up.
Yeah. Currencies are supposed to be used to get around the randomness of a looting, like, you know, slot machine, right? And instead they're like, no, you got to pay to do the slot machine to get the thing you didn't want to begin with. It's like, what was the point of that? So I've talked about this way too often. I feel like every time I do it, I'm just rambling the same thing. But yeah, it's frustrating.
All right, final thing I gotta ask: are we Team Spider or Team Beetle?
Spider.
Oh, God.
Okay, no, we gotta go class by class because you are gonna be voting by class.
By class now, yeah.
So first one I actually want to do is the Warlock because where I am divided on it. So I got to ask Cog, the resident Warlock, first. Where are you on the Warlock? Are you Team Spider for your Spider look, or are you Team Beetle? Where are you at? I got to know.
Gotta admit, even though Team Spider is overall better, I'm glad they got voting per class because I like the Beetle for the Warlock better. The Beetle Warlock is where it's at. I
agree.
Yeah, I don't like where the Spider Warlock is. Now, for Titans and Hunters, Spiders all day. But yeah, we Beetles out here. Well, Warlock Nation, we Beetles. Put your Beetles up.
What are you, Travis? I gotta know. Are you Spider or Beetle for Titan?
Spider.
Okay. Above, where are you at for Titan?
Spider for Titan.
Where is everybody for Hunter?
Spider.
Beetle.
It's close. It's gonna be
I think the Hunter is the best overall between the two. Like,
okay,
I would be cool with either one.
I'm Titan Spider, I'm Beetle Warlock, and I could do both on Hunter. That's where I'm at. Because both Hunter look good, I think.
Both look good to me.
Because like for the Hunter, you've got like kind of the horn going up between kind of what looks like an ornate cloak, and the cloak is also going to be like the Beetle kind of carapace, like triple wings going back. So that's going to be like the cloak. Now, the one thing I wonder about the Warlock. Every Warlock is always wearing a dress. You guys are Floof Gang. It's cool. No, you're wearing your robe. Fine, whatever you want to call it, Hugh Hefner. Anyway, the thing about the one on the spiders is I actually don't know if I've ever seen that much of a Warlock pant and boot.
Yeah.
So if you were, I was like, because honestly, normally they're covered like down below. You can basically see a shins and down. That's it. You can never see the thighs. No thighs out. What thighs out? What is it? Skies out, thighs out. Yeah. So that was one I would wonder for like transmog purposes. I kind of wonder, but I think overall, like the Warlock looks just. I feel like because you've got like a brown beetle, you've got like a gray beetle, and all of a sudden the Warlock beetle's like bright orange and is like kind of cool. And then up top you've got like Titan, which is like blue beetle. Then you've got Hunter, which is just kind of awesome looking. And then it's just like when I was describing it to my stream, I thought the Warlock Spider left one piece of his outfit at home.
Yeah, like he
forgot a piece. That's how it looks to me. It's like he forgot a piece of. He's like, I forgot this thing at home, and I can't tell you, but it just looks like it's missing something. It's like he's incomplete.
I mean, I'll say overall, I think this year's sets are the best that have. Like by far, like honestly, I'm very impressed with the design. I think they both look sweet.
Yeah, if they can, again, if the artists can actually get, because I mean, when I look at the Titan, you've got the 8 legs, like from the arms and the shoulders and the legs. You've got the little spider webs around the calves. You got the little bit of like spider hair down the sides of the legs. Like the detail in both of those is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, if they can deliver on those, by all means, that's going to be some ornate looking stuff. Finally get some cool looking armor.
I think they'll mix better with other sets than previous years too, because the other ones were like so kind of out there. They're like you tried to mix and match, but these like some of them kind of look like they could really mix in with other stuff.
Fun shaders on these two. Picture like a callus, like golden purple, like yeah, I could see some fun on these. So that seems somehow we're actually mostly all in agreement on these. That's not bad.
There you
go. One more change coming up for Tuesday onward when they do their next little hot fix. I think it's Tuesday. One, Iron Banner's back with more reputation. So those of you who procrastinated, aka Travis, good job. You get more reputation for like everything. So more base reputation.
I still won't do it.
I think I already gilded mine actually, so I'm good. But weekly deep sight red border focusing from basically the entire helm every season will reset daily. Every single day you can go in and you can buy a new red border. So if you're looking to craft everything, if you spend a little time in each of those activities and get some of that currency, you can literally cash in for a red border every single day if you got the time. So if
if I already have the currency because I'd never spent it because I didn't care? Am I just sitting on you can
go back every day and buy a red border? Yeah,
it was like when you're dead, you can't take it with you, so you may as well spend it on something.
Yep.
How dare you talk about what I can and can't do when I'm dead, Ebontis? How dare you?
Messy.
Did you just assume my afterlife?
I don't
they should do that at the end of every season. Honestly, like I think this is a good change. Little end of season catch up. I mean, well, maybe end of year. I guess this is probably the best way to do it because then people would just be like, I'll just procrastinate till the last week, spend it all.
But I mean,
maybe
if you set the precedent, you're like, oh well, I didn't quite get this one. I guess I'll just wait till the end of Lightfall's year, catch up on everything I'm missing.
Yeah, but that's like, okay, you want the mini tool now, and then it's like, okay, or I wait 6 months to get it. I don't think many people are gonna wait.
It's like I want the mini tool now, so I'll focus into that one. But do I really care about the Icalo shotgun? I could give 2 F's about the Icalo shotgun right now, so sure.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a balance of like priority. But I mean, it's like I do like this because it's 4 weeks. Gives you time. You don't have to like burn it all in like 1 week left. You got like 7 more. No, it's like you got 4 weeks. You can get 28. Literally, you can get 28 red borders in each of the seasons if you really want to go crazy about. Like you could grind out a ton if you wanted to. So it's nice if you're missing a couple here and there, fill in your gaps.
Can't wait to go grind containment. My favorite activity.
Your favorite. You
my
love
daily red borders. Yes, sir.
You love it.
Love it so much.
Well, when it comes to TWABs, there's a big one we're missing. And I'm guessing it's probably next week. So above is you're not going to be here. I mean, you're welcome back anytime, of course. But Strand.
Yeah.
Where are you on your 3 classes? Berserker, Threadrunner, now Broodweaver, since they changed some of those names. What class are you most excited about for Strand and least excited about for Strand?
Oh man, do you guys feel like we've seen enough? Honestly, like
of the entire expansion, no.
Yeah, I don't
surprised feel like anyone is excited for it.
Yeah. Maybe this is a hot take, which I guess is what the show is for. But
last word, hot takes.
Man, I don't know. Like, is it Numina? I think is the destination. I can't remember.
Numina, yeah.
I think it looks amazing. I hope it's a dynamic destination. Strand, I think, looks really cool. I don't know, with how strong the other subclasses are, it feels like from what we've seen so far, without obviously they haven't done like a huge gameplay showcase on each one yet. They feel kind of gimmicky to me. And maybe I'm going to be totally wrong, but like it just, I don't know, like grappling and hooking and like things like that. Like it sounds amazing in theory, but dude, I go into a GM and I'm flying around. I'm going to get gunned out of the sky in like 2 seconds and I'm dead. Like there's just, and then, so I'll be back on Arc when I can just throw, chuck my AFK grenade and killing, and killing everything. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm very excited to see what it brings, but I don't feel like we know enough. And right now it seems a little gimmicky.
I've been actually kind of wondering the same thing. I don't know if I was asking chat or maybe my Discord, and I was like, are we due for like a video, a Vidoc, something for Lightfall to get a little more? Because the only thing we've literally got is like August, right? Or whenever it was that we got the previous, the fact Lightfall reveal kind of thing that we got, and we got some questions answered, but I mean, outside of what's on this website, we don't know, the fluorescent pandemonium. Enemy forces are invading Neomuna. Confront them through the city and team up with fellow guardians. It's showtime. You got a new raid. You got a Lightfall dungeon key. We have Quicksilver Storm. But I was like, I'm with you. And again, it's weird. I don't want the story spoiled. I'm good with the fact that, like, hey, we're going to Neomona. We got kind of a reason out of the season as to why. Callus is going to be a thing. Witness is going to be in Puppet Master. That's about all we got, and I'm good to figure out whatever the twists and turns are. But yeah, it's like, I know I'm getting loadouts, which seems cool. We'll get a deep dive about Strand, but I was like, it does feel like something in the marketing cycle is missing. And I can't put my finger on whatever that is at the moment. Cog, where are you at? Is your hype level there? Or are you like, I know more about Starfield and Redfall than I know about the expansion that comes out in 1 month?
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Not
I'm excited.
Starfield, sorry, that one hadn't dropped.
Yeah, I'm excited. I still love what's going on. I think my gut is still there trying to do some great reveal, maybe link it to the end of whatever this prologue is.
Oh, that 2 weeks before event?
Yeah,
okay.
And do this hype cycle thing. But when it comes to their like reveals, when it comes to that Vidoc and you start seeing the implementation of the subclasses, then we're gonna get it. They're keeping things very close to the vest to the very last minute. My gut is that one, it's a story, probably a story breaking reveal that they're not ready to talk about yet.
Yeah.
They've been very consistent lately with like to the last minute not telling you. If you notice, that's the new theme now. That's why I'm not worried about it. Consistently, the last 3 seasons, they're like, the joint's coming out tomorrow, Bungie. When are we gonna know?
And they're like 2 hours before when servers go down.
Yeah. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. So my thing is, usually the expansions are the biggest. The thing that they are telling us about, which is very surprising, is how much the game itself fundamentally is going to change. That I'm surprised they're giving us that much. So if they're giving us that much now, to me, you got stuff to talk about because you got to let us know this now because you don't want to overwhelm us on the day. I ain't worried. I know how Bungie doing expansions. Not worried. You
should be worried.
You should be at all. Not at all. I know how it goes down with expansion.
Let me tell you why. No, let me tell you why you should be worried.
I'm not.
Because you should be. The reason you should be worried is, that's fine, but your game's going to die.
You're worried, but I'm not. Continue.
The reason you should be worried is because they are doing nothing to draw in new players to Destiny. And if we've learned anything from the Lightfall marketing push, it's that it's really directed at people already playing Destiny, who are already in the ecosystem. It's very little momentum. Who do you know who hasn't played Destiny who's talking about how excited they are to jump in?
Bro,
it's non-existent because this has been I don't know what the plan is, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of not true.
Limp Destiny 2 across. No, I would say Limp Destiny 2 across the final shape finish line, and then that's about 2 years later when they're going to start launching IPs, and then we'll figure out more about it. That's my hunch. Is Destiny is going to not limp. That's probably the wrong word, but it is going to be slightly pulled in the wagon across the finish line because it does. Again, we talked about the new player experience. That's not like a magical experience. Still doesn't seem like it's going to get a whole lot of love in this one. Are they really putting massive resources into that versus...
I just don't think that's how you wrap up your 10-year story. I don't think you wrap it up on a let's do the best we can and do minimal pushes for people to play this content. Because if you look at a lot of the other expansions where they felt like they had confidence, we got a trailer way in advance. We knew exactly what the Witch Queen was going to be about. We knew about the Light-Bearing Hive and all this stuff way in advance. Then they had Vidocs throughout. They actually had a video team that was supporting this stuff. None of that's here this time. None of it. And if I talk to people who don't play Destiny and, they're in the past, they've been like, I'm definitely going to hop in for Witch Queen because everything they're showing so far has been really good. There's none of that. It's like radio silence. They're like, I don't really understand Lightfall. Is that just a seasonal thing? The trailer didn't really do much for me. There wasn't a whole lot there. And I have to agree that so far the push for getting new players to care about Lightfall or the casuals, which I think are essential to Destiny surviving.
Yeah.
They've done a really poor job about it. And so that's why I say it's fine. You personally don't have to be, worried about it for your enjoyment, but for the future of Destiny, you should be. You should be worried if it doesn't seem like they're going to bring in new players and they're continue shrink their audience and do all the things that you don't want.
That's hyperbole. I can't.
How is it hyperbole?
Because literally everything they've said prior to this point has been the major complaint, addressing the major complaints new players have for joining Destiny. They'd be like, yo, what do I have to do? How come there's this light restriction? They're literally changing the foundational system.
Like making everything harder to get with their
No, they're literally making the barrier easy.
Everything a lot like the loadouts, the mods, 100% completely agree on that. You want to know what would get people to play this game, and if they can drop this information with like, hey, 2 weeks left, and then like, so there's two things. One, as you guys were talking about it, is the timing of possibly the cycle. The timing of the cycle is going to be on February 14th or 15th. One, Valentine's Day, people are busy. That's not really what I'm going for. Two is, that is in the middle of one of the busiest gaming months that we have seen in a little while. Last February sucked. This one is almost worse. So people are going to be busy. So they're going to be like, I've got Wild Hearts, Atomic Heart, Hogwarts Legacy, all of that stuff sitting in the middle. You've got Wolong coming in March. You've got Dead Space going right now. All of this stuff is literally already going to be going. So they're going to try and drop a marketing cycle in the middle of that if they're trying to hold a story beat back.
That's the only thing I won't fight you guys on.
No, but hold on. I was like, hold on. So that's one piece, is like the timing could be a struggle. Now, what you're saying, Cog, is a lot of things like loadouts, free mods for everybody. This is a good thing. You want what I want to say is the one thing that they can do. The
LFG in game.
That's not coming yet. That's not, LFG is not going to be
until
like season 22.
It's not a selling point for players that aren't in Destiny right now. That's my problem with all of this. The loadout stuff, all the quality of life improvements, they're great for people who are playing the game. It is not why people get into Destiny.
You want to know how you get people into Destiny? Do what Elder Scrolls just did, and do what Final Fantasy has done.
That's 14. What I'm talking about.
Make everything free except Lightfall. Make that stuff free and say, come join us, experience what we have up until this point, and then join the new one. If they can go, hey, old stuff's free, then
for sure. That's the barrier right there.
And that's the one I want them to do, because you can say, hey, you got all the systems. LFG is going to be in like season 22 probably. It's not coming soon. But yeah, if they go, previous stuff's free, come on in. That's how you open the doors. Some of this stuff has to be free. Some of it. Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, that stuff's got to be free. Has to be free at some point.
Does anyone else feel like Destiny has increasingly become less accessible? Because I feel like for a while there, they were doing all these things to make it more accessible. It got added to Game Pass for a couple years. They added crossplay and it Stadia, and I felt like it was finally opening up to where like asking your friends to pay $60 every year and all that other expansions and stuff was sort of finally falling away. And it's felt like the past couple of years, it's gone the opposite way. It's gone off of these subscription services. It's now, you've got to buy it. And as my friends learned who were on the cast that, where we talked about new player experience, sometimes you can buy it and then find out that you can't play a lot of the stuff that you just bought because it's already been taken out of the game. It just feels like it's becoming less mainstream.
I don't know. The Epic Store? And they just added to the Epic Gaming Store?
Yeah, but I mean, it still has all of the problems with barriers of entry, the new players.
This is my issue. So, like, I used to be in advertising and marketing at Amazon for years. So I know all about this. And then going into content creation, I have a very unique perspective. I get players in my chat all the time. They're like, oh, I'd love to hop in on a GM with you. Like, and then I'll be like, oh, it's Scarlet-Keep. And they're like, well, I don't own Shadowkeep, so I can't. And then I'm like, oh, they're like, okay, so which expansions are worth buying? I'm like, well, you Beyond Light, which is really valuable because it's the only place you can get Stasis, the only DLC that locks a subclass behind an expansion. The other ones, I'm like, so I always kind of default to that. I'm like, yeah, the story's pretty good, but like, you get the subclass that's literally only accessible if you purchase that. And then I'm like, well, the Witch Queen campaign's cool. But, outside of that, like that, to me, the Witch Queen, honestly, like the campaign was amazing, but didn't bring a whole lot else in terms of like the overall gaming sphere. A lot of that was like free updates, was like
the crafting's for everybody, all that stuff. Yeah,
crafting's for everybody. The 3.0 subclasses for everybody,
which is how they all should be. That's not a knock against them.
No, 100%. So like, I guess my point is like, it's very hard to, even as a creator of this game who plays this every day, to even come up with an answer of like, oh, these are the expansions you should buy. This is the bundle you should get. Exactly what Ebontis said. The 30 days leading up to a new expansion, everything you should be promoting that on every social, over on YouTube. Like, I should be getting sick of your YouTube ads on pre-rolls leading up to the new expansion being like, all Destiny content, last 4 years, entirely free. Jump in today, Lightfall, February 28th, and you're ready to go. And everybody can come in and get caught up. Throw in a catch-up mechanic in there. Get to 1600 power now. Like blah 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 blah. I mean, you could do so much more. They're doing things like, to your point, Cog. Like, there's amazing things coming to this game. A lot of that is for people who gave this game a chance mid-year this year and see fundamental flaws coming from other games. They're like,
they tell me.
I can't get access to these weapons. There's no low. There's no LFG. Those are great things for players who have hopped in this calendar year and are now like starting to get, more involved with the actual, universe of Destiny. But like, to Travis's point, if I'm a new player, I see in-game LFG or I see loadouts, I don't even know what that means. That's cool, but all I give a shit about is like, can I sling from the ceiling with Strand? Am I going to be able to hop in? Will I be behind? Because a lot of the things with like live service games and MMOs is how overwhelmed you get by how much you've missed out on. It's like you feel like you're so far behind. It's not even, there's no point to even diving in. If you subside that for players, you're going to see a huge uptick in wanting to jump in with Lightfall and be like, okay, now's my time. I can get caught up. I can jump in and see all this new content and not feel like I've missed years of what, I don't know. To me, as a marketing professional, like previously, like there's so much I feel like they could improve.
Absolutely.
This cycle around.
I just wanted to get this last point off too, is that, again, I know people are impatient of like, okay, what's going on with the marketing cycle, and that's valid. I don't really have too much pushback. I guess the thing I would say is, one, it's not February still yet. We still have some time left. Let's relax. The season has not ended. Second, because it's not this doom and gloom thing that I see perpetuating. What I do remember is, if you remember pre-Beyond Light, they did this where it was quiet, and then as soon as Beyond Light, oh, by the way, we're in Game Pass. Oh, by the way, here comes Shadowkeep. It's free to play. And they've done this before. Like, so it's funny to be like, we're dooming and glooming, yet we're not there yet. When it gets there, I'm not worried. When it comes to expansions and the promotion and marketing of their big expansion, they've always knocked that out the park to me. That's never been the issue with Destiny. The issue with Destiny to me has been the ease of entry for new players. And then once the expansion is over, the seasonal content model is when you start to see the kind of drop off. That to me is the issue, but that's where I'm at with it. I'm not worried.
Yeah, I just feel like the ease of entry, part of that is letting players get excited about it, and I feel like they've done that a lot better in the past than I feel like they're doing it now. I think the next contract drop we're supposed to get on information about Lightfall is the 16th of February, which is about 10 days before the 12 days, I think, before the expansion comes out. To me, that's not really enough time to generate hype. And you used Beyond Light as an example. Beyond Light, they didn't even really talk about the story because I think they knew it was not great. The thing they talked about in Beyond Light was, hey, look, Stasis is coming and we're going to tell you something new about Stasis every week for like months. Remember that? There was those pages on their website that were like, hey, here's this Stasis power, here's this Stasis power. They honed in on that, and they were like really confident that Stasis was going to be fun and that was going to bring people in. And I feel like we know nothing about. It broke PvP, but they're really confident that it was going to shake things up, and it was this new. They were adding an element, and it feels like we don't have that at all with Strand right now. Like, I don't know why to get excited for Strand except for that I get a grapple hook. That's literally it. I don't know how it's different than the other one.
You think it's going to remain like that from this point? They're not going to do any marketing.
No, they're going to.
We're going to be clueless going into.
I think they're going to spend the last 12 days telling us, but I think that the reason they have to keep the cycle short is because I don't think Lightfall has a lot of content. That's how I feel.
Your feeling is that. My feeling is they've changed their philosophical model with marketing. And the point is they want a bigger splash. They feel for whatever reason, it's a better impact to give that information later at the closest to the release.
Kind of last minute.
And they physically said that. DMG literally, I'm not saying I agree. But yeah,
that day of marketing for the season.
Literally publicly say, hey, we're trying out this new thing.
Great.
And this new thing is, we're not telling you 2 months in ahead. We're telling you like a week or two in that marketing cycle, and we're going to see how this goes for us. That's what they're doing.
Great. Yeah. And if you trust them and their marketing speak about how they're telling you how they're it's either they're a difference in strategy on good faith, or it's damage control, right? It's one of the two.
I guess that's how we go see how it
and maybe it could be both. Maybe it's, hey, we're trying a new model because we don't have content and we want to keep it as close to the possible as possible to the thing. I'm just worried. And again, I say this every show. I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope Lightfall comes out and its story is amazing and they have all the stuff. I just don't have confidence. I see the writing on the wall with the turnaround time on this expansion, the lack of delays, the velocity versus quality comments, the fact that we haven't seen anything. How many clues do I have to get before I'm worried?
Okay. I think
that's all
we'll have to see.
There's an interesting thing that I saw actually is that
but if I'm
promotional
right,
periods,
I want my apology. If I'm right in this wait, hold
on. I won't apologize.
I want the knees, because if this is popping and everybody's like, oh my God, they doing it, I want Travis to say, Cog, you was right. I was over the top with my fear mongering.
Let the record show.
A couple things. I'll never apologize. I will never apologize for being skeptical with the information I have now.
You said it's bad.
You guys wrap this up.
Wait. I'll never be apologize for being skeptical with the information I have now, which to me is just worrying. Okay. Yeah. 2, I'm not going to assume that it's amazing the first week it comes out. Wait. When all the Destiny simps are just like chortling on Bungie's team.
Don't count.
You know what I'm saying? Like I need.
Okay.
What's that?
I'm listening to the back pedal. I want to hear the back pedal.
No, it's not a back pedal. I'm setting expectations because Destiny fans do this thing where the week it comes out, they go, we did it, it's a success. And then 3 weeks later, they go, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And I go, okay, well, let's maybe chill then on declaring victory.
Success. When the raid come out, 2 weeks after the raid, can we know it's a success? No, I want a tangible number for you so I can come back and say it's a success. Okay. And I want to know that when is it qualified as a success?
Qualified as a success when I think it's successful.
Oh, see, you're playing games. Never mind. I can't win this. You're playing games. The goalpost can move anyway with that. My thing is, let's just say after the raid, if everyone is in agreement that this is great,
he's gonna review Lightfall. He's gonna
say, Cog, I was fear-mongering and it was good. I want you to say it.
He's getting into an ILP thing here.
He can't come in here and say, I think it's going to be, I'm worried. I don't think it's going to be a lot of content. And then it's a lot of content and it's popping. I want him to say, yo, I was wrong on that. I
will, but I can't do it based off other people's opinions. And the parameters, the parameters you just set forward, you would lose because you said if everybody says it's successful, not everybody's going to say successful.
Fair enough. Majority.
Because I'm a person, I can only say it's successful if I think it's successful. I'm reviewing.
I'm sorry, by the way.
After the raid.
No, you're good. I was going to say,
if I give it a good review and I'm impressed, I will forward and I will say, look, it was wrong to be worried.
All right, my man, that's all I asked, brother.
I was like, he's gonna review the thing. You're gonna get an idea of what he thinks.
That's all I had. He's
literally gonna have an IGN review. You're gonna be able to see.
The whole reason I caveated that is because I'm not going to be beholden to other people's opinion, especially GMs who don't think for themselves. That's all.
It's you. Fair enough. Go ahead, above.
I was going to say, I think you guys have. Do you have ideas that are both correct? Like Travis, I think is completely justified in saying like they could do much more to promote to new players. That is completely accurate. As someone who has a long time marketing background, 100%, I think they could do a much better job on that front. To Cognito's point, they do an amazing job in the short term leading up those like 3-4 weeks prior to an expansion. They knock it out of the park. I think we do. And the interesting thing is that actually the marketing cycle is mirroring what they did for Witch Queen. So like the previous trailer that was released was 6 weeks prior. The next should be about 3 weeks, and then it's like the week of 6 days, and then like the day before. That like I guarantee you it will fall almost an identical promotional timeline. I think it's too early to say that it obviously like we have no information. So at this point, I don't think you can say that it's not going to be.
Isn't that scary, though?
I'm worried for no content. It is absolutely. But I don't think we can say one way or another that there's not going to be anything there. Like obviously you can have concerns for sure, and I think like to your point, I wish they would do more. Like there's little things like that with the DLC packs to be more new player friendly, to build hype. Because like to Travis's point, like going back and forth between you guys, you both make really good points. They need to do more a little earlier to build that hype for new players so they can come in and get an idea of what the game is about and actually have that lead up period to be hyped for an expansion like Lightfall, to know what in-game loadouts mean, to know that Strand is going to be cool because it's adding this dimension to the game that you don't have yet, especially once you've gotten Strand and all these other things, like, or you've gotten, you've played Stasis and you've played the 3.0 subclasses for a couple weeks and you understand what the game is about. That's how you get people invested in the Destiny universe, not just like, oh yeah, we'll show people hooking around some city they know nothing about. I don't know. I feel like there's more they could do. And I want to, we all are passionate about this because we want to see Bungie succeed at the end of the day. Like this is the game that
I want them to not just succeed, but I want them to succeed for new players. I want them to expand the number of people who love Destiny. And I'm worried because I haven't seen much, and everybody in the Destiny community is acting like, oh, well, I'm hyped. It's like, well, you're hyped because you read the TWAB, but are we expanding here? And I want, no news is bad news when it comes to game marketing. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we haven't seen a whole lot. So I hope you guys are right. I hope they're saving this big pinata of amazing content and we just won't see it coming and it's going to be amazing. I'm just worried because I haven't seen enough and I'm just,
I feel you.
Like I haven't had a lot of time to work on this. That's all.
Fair.
As it relates to Strand, completely agree. Sorry to cut you off. Like I feel like I know nothing at this point. Yeah. But
all fair. All I would say is that I think we're in a different era with game development. I think game development right now, what we talked about with remote, COVID, games are just taking longer to come out. And I think a lot of times they're keeping things closer to vest is what I'm seeing as a trend. Because what happens is like if you put stuff out too early and it don't look good or it's not ready, we as gamers really go in. I think that
we're not forgiving it all on Grand Theft Auto 6. Everybody's stupid to be like, of course it's not done, you dumb peep. Like, not.
Well, that was a leak. That's even worse.
Well, exactly. It's a leak, shouldn't be there, and of course it's not finished. And I will tell you, the one thing I noticed, the starting and stopping, like the locomotion animation of the guy, the one leak that I saw, I'm like, that is one of the most natural looking movements I've ever seen in a video game. I'm like, that actually looks really good for what you're looking at. But it's like, people are like, oh no. I'm like, oh yeah, all of you are stupid. My one question is, the Destiny 2 30th anniversary pack right now on Green Man Gaming is $25. Do you think that's worth $25?
No. Hard.
Also, if I was someone who didn't play Destiny, I wouldn't know what the difference between a 30th anniversary pack is from Beyond Light expansion or Witch Queen. Like, what does that even mean?
So if you get the Legacy Collection, Lightfall Annual Pass, Witch Queen, and the 30th anniversary, it is $210 right now.
Damn, Lord.
Above, we did an episode where we had some of my friends on who are new Light players, and they just destroyed Destiny about their, like, one of them bought that pack that has all like the previous DLCs, and then he found out like 2 of them aren't playable anymore, and like just was like pissed off as hell. And it's really eye-opening. You talk to new players, like it's just so hard to navigate. And the 30th anniversary is even crazier because it has like that other activity you can't access. And
it literally has a dungeon because Dares of Eternity is free.
That's right. Yeah.
So literally, your $25 to get you Grasp and Galley. That is what you are paying for in that.
Yeah,
and a new activity. I don't know. I feel like a dungeon.
It's a Grasp, yeah. So it's like Grasp, and then inside of that is Gallahorn. But it's like
for the new player experience.
So you're looking at it
take more of what they did in DSC, and they need to incorporate it in the game. Like things just need to be explained visually. You need to hold players' hands at the beginning. Like it's just like. The thing that's crazy to me too, not to like rag on the game, but like this is the revamped New Light experience that we currently have in the game, by the way.
It's like the third time they tried it.
A year prior. There needs to be way more for where this game is at this point.
I mean, when we had it needs to be free to play. I'm just gonna say it. The game needs to be free to play, period.
Yeah, well, when we had Travels as friends on, and then I've seen other people like Sweatcicle and stuff make videos of like, hey, I logged in with a new account, and there's like 60 pop-ups that just come up, and they come in and out of one like cinematic, and they don't even have a context for what it's going for. I'm like, you're telling me you can't have like literally like you have a timeline in the game. Start at Shadowkeep, do that like cinematic they had at the Lightfall showcase, the amazing like 5-minute this is the history of Destiny. That's the first thing you see. Then you go into 100%. Shadowkeep and like, hey, 100%. This is the Shadowkeep expansion.
Cog.
And then like guide people through. That seems simple, but they have like 14 season pass like things pop up, and it's like,
Ebontis, the issue is they can't do that because they're often not bundled. They're available individually. They're not discounted.
I know.
So they can't streamline
free
one single
to play. It needs to be free to play. You have microtransactions, you have season passes, you have all the stuff that like Apex Legends is able to be successful on. You have no excuse. You should be free to play. And you're owned by Sony, right? So like, you know, I'm told that you have unlimited Sony bucks.
I was going to say this I would say like,
if you're concerned, sell one Starfire Protocol ornament and you'll make up everything you lost.
Yeah, exactly. Like good. You put one ornament out there like that. Do a Heart of Inmost Light ornament that's like a little better than the recent one they did. Yeah.
You weren't here for the episode where we had the new lights on, but he literally said the first time he played, he immediately found out he didn't have access to the old stuff he bought. So he was already pissed. And then he sees the Witch Queen intro and he goes straight into the mission. He does the first mission and then it pops up and says, you need to buy the Witch Queen to keep playing. And he goes, what? So he gets pissed off. He gets pissed off because it just let him play part of a campaign he doesn't own.
You get like
he logged out. He logged out, and then when he logged in the next day, it was the robosexual cutscene with the T. And then he went straight into that, and then he went straight into that activity for the season. And he was just like, "What is happening? Why is it every time I log in, it's a different game?" He was like losing his mind.
So
we love Destiny, don't we, dude? We love. I mean, hey,
if you can talk about it for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it's a lot of passion. But I feel like we've taken up a lot of Above's time, and we can talk for probably longer with this group. So that's why I say you're welcome back anytime, man. The discussions are great. But in fairness to you, even if you're on the West Coast, you might be getting hungry now for some food. So this seems like a reasonable place to wrap it up. It has been fantastic having you back. Without question, I knew it was going to be a fun show, but I'm glad we got off tangents, which exactly what I was kind of hoping for. But that was actually a really good time for you to tell people where to find you, what to do, what content, YouTube, Twitch, Grandma, all your stuff. Like, just floor is yours, spill the beans, all of it.
Well, when I'm not being late to a podcast like I definitely was to this one, you can find me streaming at twitch.tv/above. We basically just play with the community every single day. So whether it's like Grandmasters, dungeons, raids, we've kind of been dedicating days to each one. Been really fun. I also upload on YouTube at Above Destiny. You guys can find me there as well. Lots of endgame guides. So whether you guys aren't familiar with GMs, we also just make guides on how you can focus armor or, God rolled weapons that really stand out from the season. I upload there as well. And then below my face cam, Above TP on Twitter, you can follow me there as well for updates and all that good stuff. So yeah. This Saturday, we have our game show, Grandmaster Gauntlet. So if you want to see people torture themselves in Grandmasters, that is your place on Twitch. How many of those
have you lost?
Man, in the last couple of seasons, I've actually done very well. I think I've lost once each of the last 3 seasons. Or no, twice in the last 3 seasons.
I was going to say, more often than not, I see you having other people delete stuff. So you just bring people on to ruin their vaults, not yours.
Hey, it gives us a reason to care about loot again, so it's all good. No, we have a ton of fun. And it's been a great way to honestly just build relationships with creators around the community. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys having me on though. It's you guys are a great group and this is an awesome show. So much appreciate you.
Always good to have you back, man. I should salute to you. Your videos always come up in my feeds all the time. So it's just like I remember right around this season of Seraph, and I was hitting that linear fusion joint. You know what I'm saying? Last one that's out. And good content, brother. Love it. A lot of good in-game stuff. Very informed. And salute to you. I want to give you some credit behind the scenes. Salute to you. I like how you handled that situation with your man, with the Chill Clip Rocket situation. I thought that was
G-Miners?
Yeah, that was dope how y'all came together. Because you normally don't see that from 2 content creators. It was respectful. And because I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, Bob is melting these things. I love what you guys did with that, but how you guys came together to get clarity was super dope, and we need to see more of that.
Hey man, I mean, if I'm wrong on something, I don't mind admitting it. That was a weird one to test for sure, but
because it was so inconsistent. So it's not like I didn't blame either of you. I was like, yeah, it's such an inconsistent thing, but it was really cool the way y'all were both respectful with each other on that. So salute to you on that, and guys killing the guides and the videos, man. Salute to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Likewise to you guys. This show is awesome. So much again, it was great to catch up.
I apologize for the other two on here, but thank you for coming on.
I wouldn't have it any other way, man. I love the passion. That's what it's about.
No, believe me, the ridiculousness that happens on the show sometimes is hilarious. A little much for me on little moments, but overall, I would say we have a very good time on the show. So, absolute pleasure having you on. But before I say mine, Travis, what can we? What is the next date we should check out the IGN website?
Always, every day, guys.
Oh, okay. See, this is a man who's working all the time.
I'm doing news now, which is weird and new for me, but I am posting like every day on the site. So nice. I guess you just keep reading.
You're just gonna eventually be full time over there.
I mean, I would argue I already am.
Probably. As many things you got cooking.
Yeah. So you can find my review of SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake on IGN.com on, I believe, January 30th.
Nice.
30th? Yeah, I think that's right. I finished that game a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember what it was like, but my review remembers. And I've got my next review is a certain Hogwarts-based game. So, get ready for that.
Magic and wand-based game.
Magic and wand-based game, exactly. So your eyes peeled for that. I'm going to be putting a lot of time into that game very shortly here. Other than that, you can follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis if you want to hurl insults at me. That is the best way to do it. I find that gets people to follow me for some reason. And above, I just want to say thanks for coming on. I actually enjoy you as a host. I hate pretty much all of the hosts Ebontis brings on here, so that's quite a compliment.
Thank you.
It's just nice to have the adult in the room, somebody who gets it, has well-spoken and thought.
Well, let me apologize to 233 previous guests. Holy crap. Anyway.
Sorry, bro.
No, 32. I've been on once before.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 232. We've had a couple of repeats in there, but yeah.
I don't watch anyone on Twitch or YouTube. I don't care what people have to say, generally speaking, but I think you should follow above. He's a good guy.
Thank you very much.
I endorse him. He gets the Travis bump. All right, which is not
wow. Scarrow's in there, so he joined that
too. Scarrow's in here.
Scarrow, sorry, but take it or leave it.
Really. Shadow, any of the people just randomly in chat. By the way, everybody's trash except above. I'm like,
no, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Hilarious. All right. Anyway, So above, you're gonna hit me with that Venmo later.
Yeah. No, the check's already in the mail.
How about you, Cog? What do you got?
I can't follow any of this. Are you kidding me?
It's over after that. Shout out to Above again. Yeah, with me, LordCognito on Twitter. Shout out to Maddie. We actually did something different. We shadow dropped the Developer Direct episode of Defining Duke in honor of the shadow drop.
You public dropped it, right?
We public dropped it. So we public dropped it. So on YouTube, our little podcast will be back this Sunday. Just gonna catch it up with all that, and not much else going on. Just hopefully logging into Destiny and things working. And that's all I need right now.
Actually logging in, part of a thing.
Yes, that's what I need right now. But E, what you got going on, man?
It's Ebontis everywhere. I want to play. I want to play Forspoken. I want to play Dead Space. Somewhere I'm gonna find.
Forspoken?
I actually do. I'm curious.
I'm surprised. That's surprising.
It's more of the. I actually was able to. I did get a code, so I was able to actually. I applied for a code and got one. But it's more the fact that it's like it got so much crap, and I know some of it may be justified, some of it maybe not. I'm honestly just curious. I want to give it some hours of just my own, just to see. But is it justified? Is it cringy? Can I deal with it? Can I?
It's so polarizing.
And then it's like Dead Space looks like it's gonna get like a 90 on Metacritic, so I'm not worried about that. I just got to try and find time. So now it's the point of Destiny's a little bit slower. Can I find time to stream some other stuff before we obviously go Lightfall, tape my eyes open, and make content for 96 hours straight kind of thing. So,
by the way, a quick Dead Space note. Before that game came out, like maybe a month ago, everyone I had talked to who had played it said that they were super worried about it. And it looked like it was going to be a troubled
for Dead Space.
For Dead Space.
Yeah,
everyone I talked to was like, dude, that game is in bad shape. And then it came out and it's amazing. And everybody I talked to was like, they finished it. I don't know how they finished it in like 2 or 3 weeks. They just like worked through everything. So for all of my pessimism earlier about Lightfall, sometimes things just come together. And I will say, keep that in your hat as a little token of hope. Because I was so pleasantly surprised when that review came out today. And I saw that everybody I'd talked to before was like, I don't know what happened, but they fixed that game. So, hats off to devs for doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
Salute.
Well, very long podcast, extra long. Above, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Sorry if we kept you too long. Say hello to the wife.
I had a blast.
Seriously. Say hello to the wife. Thank you for letting us steal a few hours from you. Travis Cog, wouldn't have it any other way. You guys kill me, but it's hilarious. And of course, got to keep things mixed up in here. But for episode number 234, it has been an absolute blast. Chat, you guys have been amazing. Thank you for being in here. Thank you if you're from Above's community, from Iron Lords, from Defining Duke, from just the internet. You guys are all fantastic. Chat, you guys were hilarious and on fire. And for this episode, it has been
the last word.
The last word pod. Yeah.
It's those guys. Yeah, it's those guys.